T-minus 10, 9, 8,
The clock is
7.
operating. We're underway.
Tranquility Base here.
Endeavor, go at throttle up.
Now, what we're watching at the moment on this live feed is the Phoenix capsule being very carefully lowered into the hole. That is the top of the tunnel that reaches 2,000 feet down into the cavity, into the refuge where the 33 miners have been imprisoned for the last 68 days. This could be the beginning of that operation. You see the wheels on the side. That's what will help the capsule to glide down ever so gently, they hope, ever so slowly. It'll first take down a medic, and then it'll bring up a miner. Let's go to my colleague Rajesh Merchandani, who's got an actual view of this, albeit from some distance. Rajesh.
Matt, thank you. Yeah, there are some amazing scenes going on here after a few hours when they've been making final preparations to the capsule on the ground. Now, as we're seeing, they're starting to put it into the rescue shaft. This is going to be a test run down to the bottom. It's going to move out the way so you can actually get a better view of it. What's been amazing to watch is that we know that this is a technologically ingenious solution, an impressively technological rescue. But in the last few minutes, we've been seeing the most incredible close-up pictures, courtesy of a camera down there, showing men literally with a pair of pliers, tightening bolts, using tape to stick together bits of cable, even plastic cable ties to make sure that everything is fastened on the bottom side of the capsule before they're trying this test run, lowering it in. You can just see there that the wheels, the suspension on the pod, taking being pushed in a bit as the capsule starts going down into the rescue shaft. Earlier, we saw engineers lowering hundreds of meters of cable down the hole. This is a guide cable, and of course remember that if the pod gets stuck with a miner in it on the way up, that miner will have to detach himself from the harness he's wearing, open the bottom of the capsule and winch himself back down to the chamber where his colleagues are. And that's the cable they were lowering down that the miners will use to do that. It didn't look very thick to me, but obviously they thought that that's enough to get the miners back down if they have to. They're hoping clearly they don't need to do that. And now we're seeing for the first time the Phoenix rescue capsule going into the shaft for the first of these final tests. Nothing in it at the moment. They're going to take it down to the bottom once, they're going to bring it all the way back to the top once, and then they're going to put a medic inside it, and then the rescue begins. But some amazing scenes starting to really unfold in front of our eyes.
And Rajesh, we hear that they have decided which paramedic will go down, but haven't released the name yet. And that will be quite a trip, won't it, for the first man inside that capsule to go those 622 meters down. And as we understand it, when he gets to the bottom, he'll prepare the first miner, Florencio Avalos, the 31-year-old father of two, the cameraman for the miners underground. He will be the first one up to the surface, and when that comes up, a second paramedic will go down as well. Then Mario Sepulveda will be brought up, and on the surface, when he is out, a mining rescue worker will go down. But here we go now, the capsule Phoenix 2. Going down at a slight angle. This was the bore that the Plan B drill made. Which caused some of the complications at the time, because it wasn't going down plumb straight at 90 degrees. But some last minute wiring being done here, as we can see, with the electrics. We think there'll be a light on, a dim light, all the way up and down. There's also a microphone and a communication system, as well as the oxygen tanks and a harness inside that capsule. A capsule designed by the Chilean Navy, made at the Chilean shipworks at Talcahuano. Going down now for its final test run before carrying a human cargo down and bringing the first of these 33 miners up to the surface. The cable for this winch, brought in especially from Germany. It's the sort of cable they use on ski lifts and cable cars, so it can take a huge weight, 160 kilos of a rescue capsule, and the weight of a man inside, nothing compared to what it can actually carry. These pictures coming into us live from the Chilean authorities here at the San Jose mine, several camera positions in place. This feed edited and streamed out to us and all the other international media who've gathered at the San Jose copper and gold mine in recent days and weeks. With a sort of talismanic touch there from I'm not sure who that is. It looks, not even sure if that's the president himself. Not sure if it is, but people just touching the side of that capsule as it makes its way down the 622 meters. To the workshop area of the mine. It's 9:30 in the evening local time here. Night has descended, of course. It's cold, it's about 3 degrees. The families and friends who've gathered here at the San Jose Camp Hope, watching these images around me on big screens, lining the entrance to the mine. It looks as if everything is in place, but they haven't started lowering it yet. Rajesh Merchandani still on that viewing platform a little higher up from where we are now. Rajesh, just tell us, I mean, we've got this feed of pictures which is close up, but what are you seeing from where you are?
Well, where we can see, we have a much wider view, Tim. We can see the sort of entire working area that they've been operating in, and this includes the other drills that are now halted while this operation tries to make the final rescues. We did see earlier, I think it was the president, I think you were talking about it too, President Piñera just tapping the side of the capsule there, almost wishing it luck. And there now we can see it's starting to make a descent. It looks like a torpedo going down into the earth, painted in the colours of the Chilean flag. And there, the last bit of it is going down into the rescue shaft for the first time, just passing the final, the top wheels, the name Chile disappearing, and there, the rescue capsule has now gone into the shaft for the first time. It'll go all the way down to the chamber where the miners are. That's the idea. And then it'll be winched back up again empty. The point being that this is a test run. And then if that's successful, if they're happy with that, the first medic will go down and the rescue proper will begin. So it seems that it's pretty much getting underway.
Cheers here, Rajesh. I don't know if you heard them from the crowds around the big screens here at Camp Hope, just watching these pictures as it descends down 622 meters down to the workshop area below, which has been specially widened by the miners with explosives in the last couple of days. Now, we think it's going down at just under a meter a second. It'll come up slightly faster than that, and if there's an emergency, it can come up at 3 meters a second. But there we have it, Phoenix 2, its last trial run down to the workshop area before it brings human cargo down in the shape of a paramedic, the first man down. And after that, it'll be the face of Florencio Avalos, the 31-year-old father of two, the cameraman underground, who will see the outside world for the first time in 69 days. This, the start of what would have been his 69th shift had he been working underground. They do seem actually to have just stopped it, I think, at the moment. I'm not sure if they're putting a tag or something on it at the moment. Can you illuminate us on that, Rajesh?
Tim, yeah, I'm looking at the gantry here, and there's a wheel on top of the gantry, which is where the cable is on, and that moves when the cable is going down or up, and it has stopped. It stopped, I'd say, maybe about a minute ago, and they did say that this test run would be slower than when they take the capsule down for real to bring the miners up. So clearly they're making sure that it's working okay. We don't know at the moment if this is a snag or part of their plan, but yeah, I can tell you the wheel, the pulley has stopped. The cable is not going any further down at the moment, but now look, I think actually it's starting to move a little bit again. No, it looked like it was starting to move there a little bit again. I think not. It's a very slow test run. This is perhaps what's going to take a lot of the time. Earlier the mining minister indicated that it might be around sort of 10:30 before they actually can get the rescue operation underway. It may be that that's because this test run will take a long time. They'll go at a much slower pace just to make sure that they are entirely happy with the way the capsule is sitting on the cable and the way it's moving down. First, that reinforced, that lined part of the rescue shaft, and then the bare rock. That's 100 meters of steel tubing, and then 600 meters of just the bare rock to get down to the chamber where the miners are. I'm still looking from my vantage point. I can't see that wheel on the top of the gantry is moving yet, but now, yep, it seems to. Yep, it is moving again. It's letting the cable down, so it looks like the Phoenix capsule again is continuing, is resuming its run to the bottom, its test run to the bottom.
And Rajesh, just looking at the close-up shots that we are being fed here, I think that tool we saw in place there seems to be keeping the cable right in the center of the shaft, which is really no bigger than a sort of a modern street drain, is it? When you just realize quite how tight the gap is for that capsule to go up and down.
Well, yesterday I saw the rest of the leftover steel cables, the steel tubes rather, that they haven't used to line the rest of the shaft. They're exactly the same as the one that they have used. And I got very close up to it, right next to it, and I could barely fit into it. I can tell you, if I was to try and get through that, it will be extremely tight. And remember, the capsule is an inch less wide than the tube, so that gives you an idea of just how little space there is in there. And imagine that coming up for 2,000 feet, 700 meters. It's going to be pretty claustrophobic in there. And this is, we've been talking about what a technological achievement this is, but just watching these final stages, they have been using the most basic tools to make sure that everything is in place on the capsule before they lower it down. It's quite amazing to watch.
Speaking to one of the Chilean Armed Forces specialists who've been talking to these men every day recently, Rajesh, and he was saying that, yes, for most of us, this would be a pretty tough thing to do, but for these miners, he said, they were a breed apart. They were tough men. It would be a walk in the park, he said, a very long walk in the park, but a walk in the park nonetheless. And when you look at the amount of cable that's being fed down there, on that other shot with a man seeing it all spool out, you just get an idea of how deep it is down there. This is much taller than any public building, isn't it? Any building anywhere in the world.
It's certainly a very long walk in the park, isn't it, that one? Not one that I'm sure any one of us would want to do. We've been watching these scenes for several hours now, and we're waiting to see how this capsule does on this test run. Is it going to be a smooth run? Are there going to be any last-minute snags? I'm not sure if anyone's got a plan for any last-minute snags. They just have to kind of box and cox, busk them as they come across them. When you talk about the miners being a rare breed, talking to other reporters here from around the world, one thing that seems to be a common factor about why this story has resonated so much is because people are really respecting the miners for the way they've shown unity and discipline and stoicism. And these are qualities that Chileans hold very dear, and that's why they've become sort of national heroes. Down in the town of Copiapó, where you've been and I've been, there are banners up calling them the heroes of the bicentenary. This is, after all, Chile's bicentenary year, and these miners are now the heroes, they're superstars of that event. We're just waiting now for this capsule to get to the bottom, to finish its test run, come up again, and then start the rescue. And those miners will come out into the glare of the world's media as the superstars that they've become known as.
Exactly, 20 to 10 local time here. Now, Lawrence Goulbourne, a few hours ago, was saying that he hoped to have at least one up on the surface by midnight. And what I think, Rajesh, now, these pictures we're looking at, are some of the rescue workers who will be going down. That certainly seems to be the sense there. Those men primed, ready. They must be nervous as well, of course, as they descend down through this shaft as well. A team of special Navy-trained paramedics and mining rescue teams as well, taking it in turns, taking it in 12-hour shifts to deal with these men underground, to help prepare them. But of course they have had weeks of training above ground, physically and psychologically, from the various teams operating here on the surface. So
controlled descent. They're obviously analysing every inch of this journey. Now it seems to be pulling it back up again. So this is going to take a long time, I think, this journey to the bottom, this test run to the bottom, much slower than the descent or the ascent will be when there's a medic or a miner in the capsule. We've also just seen, from our vantage point, a bus go past. I think it might be containing some family members. I couldn't quite see inside. It was a large bus. There were definitely quite a lot of people inside it, and colleagues of mine who are down where you are in Camp Pope are reporting that there don't seem to be that many family members still there, that some of them aren't there that were there before. So I'm wondering now if the family members are starting to be brought inside this area, further up where we are, near the rescue site, to the containers where they will actually get a chance to greet the miners when they come back.
in fact, Rajesh, a lot of people seem to be walking in who I haven't seen in the last couple of weeks or so, who are family members who are going into this tented off area to the side of us here. So I think you're right, there will be many more family members coming in. Of course, only 2 or 3 allowed to actually greet the miners when they first come to the surface. So cheering there by some of the rescue teams waiting on the surface. Cheering on Phoenix 2 as it makes its way down, and indeed some of the family members arriving by bus now. Shouts of "Up Chile, well, Fuerza Mineros," all those slogans, all those chants we've heard now for weeks and months here, as Phoenix 2 descends down deep below ground to where the miners have been waiting now on this, what is effectively the 69th day of their captivity. Rajesh, we've just crossed to some different pictures here showing some of the rescue teams, I think, which you can probably see more of where you are on that viewing platform.
Tim, I can't see those rescue teams from where I am, I have to say. I think they're assembled further up, maybe by the tent where the president is. He's got a clear view. Yeah, I think they're further up the hill, in the tent where the president and his entourage are sitting watching. They've arrived there, as you saw. It was them that was on the bus, not family members, and they got huge cheers from other people up here. At the rescue site, the engineers are still there, and they're watching and controlling the descent of the rescue capsule. Very minute movements to keep it going down. They want to get it as far down, right to the bottom, 700 meters, and then bring it back up again. A clean test run is what they want, no hitches. They've waited so long, those miners, 68 days. They don't want to have to be delayed anymore, I'm sure.
Do we know, Rajesh, what is to stop any of the miners trying to get in when it goes to the bottom? Because when they were doing the rehearsal the last time around, they kept it about 10 meters away from them.
We've not been told any of those details, but I think you can...
Rajesh, I think we've just lost communication with you. We're having problems with all our communications here, actually. The mobile phones, just because of the sheer density of mobile phone users in the area at the moment, means that we're finding it difficult to take calls in or out. But let's stay with these pictures, because as we just heard, it's Sebastián Piñera, the president of Chile, who has just arrived there, who will be closely monitoring this whole rescue operation, and who we think will be one of the first people to meet Florencio Ábalos as he makes his way to the surface, the nighttime sky that he won't have seen now for 69 days. And actually, for the miners and their eyesight, probably no bad thing that they're coming up at a time of darkness, albeit with artificial light, because they've been used to artificial light for all these weeks and months that they've been trapped underground, but not the harsh sunlight here in Chile during the day of the start now of their spring and summer season. Well, these pictures here showing Christian Barra, the Interior Minister, Lawrence Goulburn on the left, and President Piñera in the middle there, just walking up to the winch, just inspecting things on the ground there, with Phoenix 2 now out of sight, having made part of its way down to the bottom. Let's just get a sense of what this means for the president, for Chile, for the whole country really, at this time. I've been speaking to a man called Francisco, Don Francisco, a sort of Terry Wogan, Walter Cronkite-like figure, who encapsulates really what this whole rescue operation has meant for Chile and the country. I spoke to him earlier in daylight, and this is what he had to say. Now, international football stars, international models are known just by their Christian names. The same can be said for international superstars here in Chile. The man alongside me now is Francisco, Don Francisco, who had a television program here for many, many years, now based in the States.
In the States, in Miami. I started here in 1962. I'm now 48 hours on the air, and I'm 25 years in the United States, in Miami.
Why are you here?
Well, I think this is the greatest event in communication that you can live, first. And maybe first is because I'm a Chilean. And I was born here, you know, my parents, they came from Germany. They fled during the Second World War, they're German Jews. And I was born here, and I'm very connected to the life of Chile. I do a telethon for many years for the handicapped children, and that's why I'm very related with my audience.
How important, and obviously for 33 men and their families, the most important story of their lives, but how important do you think this is for Chile, its international reputation, and this sense of the whole country coming together behind something like this?
Well, first we have to talk inside the country. Inside the country, we had a big, earthquake at the beginning of the year, and we'll lose about 1,000 people. And then we had a tsunami, and we're building the country, and we're building up the country again, because that was in the middle of the country. That was where the big part of the population lives. And this second event with this 33 miners, it's a challenge for us. We have to fight for the life of that people, because this is fighting for our life, for the life of our country. But beside that, this is crossing the borders. This is worldwide. Everybody wants to fight for the life of, it's a symbol. It's not the 33 miners. It's not the 33 families. It's the symbol of life. That's my opinion.
but of the strength and stoicism of the families who've been camped out here ever since August the 5th. As a Chilean, does that surprise you? I'm just thinking, if you tried to translate this, say, to the UK, somewhere like this, I'm not sure if people would be camping out in these sort of conditions every day waiting for news.
You know, it doesn't surprise me. We are a very special country. I think we are an island because we are long, about 6,000 kilometers, 4,000 miles, and we are only 150 kilometers, 100 miles wide between the mountains and the sea. And we have many events always that we need to get together. And after the earthquake, we did a telethon 4 days after, and we raised $120 million. This country is only 16 million people. It's about $8 for each person. We have a lot of solidarity in our country.
The world's focus on these men, they went into this shaft on August the 5th as miners. They're coming out now as international celebrities. How are they going to cope? Do you fear for the future for these men, with all the attention on their private lives, the children they've got by different women, the money they're going to have? What are your thoughts?
Well, that's a big challenge because they're going to make movies here and everything. This is a worldwide story, and this is a unique event. Yeah, I think they're going to have problems. They have to focus very strong in his own family, and this is difficult. They're minors.
And that was Don Francisco, who is one of the most famous journalists that Chile has produced, also a bit of an entertainer. And when he turns up here, I tell you, the crowds turn up around him. Just to mention that we're playing tag team here. This is on a shift basis now. This is a drawn-out marathon. My colleague Tim Wilcox has gone to answer the call of nature, nothing wrong with that. I've gone to answer the call of thirst and warmth because it is incredibly cold here. So forgive me, I've availed myself of a cup of tea as I stand here, as we wait for the capsule to come up again and then finally bring the first medic down and bring the first miner up, crucially, in the next few hours or so. All around me here, I don't know if you can see the scene, perhaps you can just pan over to it, Chuck. The place is filling up. The kind of real jubilation early on has disappeared somewhat because people are getting a little bit cold and tired, but they are here for the long haul. Many of these people have been here for 68, now 69 days, waiting for the miners to reappear. It has been a record-breaking operation so far, one that everyone expects will end very happily indeed, and the beginning of that end should be really in the next few hours or so. Now, of course, the key to getting to the miners has been the drilling. There's been an awful lot of drilling. In fact, we've all become something akin to drilling experts over the last few days and weeks. There were 3 rival drills trying to get to the miners. The one that finally prevailed was what's called, rather prosaically, but now rather affectionately, Plan B. This was a drill that was operated with American expertise. It managed to get to the miners faster than the other drills. This created the tube, the shaft through which the capsule Phoenix has now been lowered. And Tim Wilcox, my colleague, spoke to Brandon Fisher, an American who was one of the drilling experts operating Plan B earlier in the day. Let's just listen to that interview.
Well, I mean, that's the moment we were looking for ever since we showed up. It was a battle. This hole gave us more challenges than we ever dreamed that it was going to.
What was so difficult about it?
Well, the formation, the rock is very hard here. We're looking at 35,000 psi rock, a lot of quartzite silica, very, very abrasive as well as hard. There was a pilot hole that was drilled into the mine before we showed up, a 5.5-inch diameter pilot hole that our job was to bring our equipment in here and follow that shaft. And there was numerous attempts to drill a 5.5-inch pilot hole into the mine to the location where we were at. So fortunately we had something to follow, and yet unfortunately there was a lot of curves and changes of angle that we had to follow.
How did the men below react when you got through?
Well, from what we could tell, I mean, they were just going crazy. They were happy. I mean, the last couple days through video feeds and through conversations, they were just giddy. They're extremely excited that we were close and on their way. One of the miners made a comment last night. We were shut down for a bit of time, and they shined their flashlight up through the hole, and it was close enough to them that they could see it. They called up like, "Hurry up, we can see it. You're this close, get down here."
How does it feel to be the man who has potentially saved the lives of these 33 miners, and what that means to their families, their children?
Well, I don't want to say the man. I mean, this was a team effort by many, many, many people. Center Rock, we manufactured the drilling equipment that we brought down here to drill the 12-inch and the 28, which ultimately ended up being a 26-inch diameter shaft. It was a group effort by many Chilean companies, Center Rock, as well as our supporting companies that helped us back home.
When are the men going to be out?
I really don't know. I'm hoping that within the next couple of days.
What's your best bet?
I'm guessing Monday or Tuesday, but that's not our part. Our part was to drill the hole. The experts are going to take over the rest of the rescue from here.
And that was Brandon Fisher, the American drill expert, who helped to operate Plan B, the drill that has successfully managed to break through to the cavity 2,000 feet below the surface of the Earth. That happened at the weekend on Saturday. And of course, we're going to see the fruits of that labor anytime soon when the Phoenix capsule will be brought back to the ground, hopefully with a miner in it. If we can go to live pictures of the capsule, there we have it. It's just come up actually from its hopefully final test run. There you can see them fiddling with the kind of with the hook at the top. That's the part of the capsule that's attached to the cable. And my colleague Tim Wilcox is here again. Good to see you again, Tim. Now, what's going on at the moment?
I'm not 100% sure, Matt. They sent it down. I'm not sure what they're putting that thing onto now, because they're going to use 2 Phoenix capsules, aren't they? Phoenix 2 and 3, we understand. The prototype that was brought here about 2.5 weeks ago, we don't think will be used because some modifications were made to that original design. The wheels on these capsules are slightly smaller. It's not clear also whether this capsule has been right down to the bottom, because we saw quite a lot of cable being fed out, but it didn't look as if 622 meters of cable had been fed out.
And they lowered it about 20 minutes ago, so didn't they?
They did, yeah, and then they stopped, and they were having what looked like to be a few problems just keeping that cable in the center of the shaft, which is no bigger than your average street drain, really. But the final testing process being carried out now, but we've got to bear in mind that Lawrence Goulburn, who's always erring on the side of caution, said that they hope to have at least one of these miners out by midnight tonight, and that is just over 2 hours away.
Well, of course, you can see why they're being so cautious, because they spent a lot of time getting this in place and making sure that it works. They really don't want anything to go wrong, especially with what's at stake, but also with so many people watching.
Absolutely, 200 media organisations here. These pictures being beamed all around the world. This is probably going to be one of the most watched news stories in recent history, I would imagine. Just given the human interest, what this story has meant for everyone, the fear of being buried underground, the element of hope here being kept alive by the families who refused to believe that these men were dead, and the fact that their belief that these men were still alive was answered 17 days later when that note came on that drill.
And of course, one can only imagine how claustrophobic it must feel, that final passage to freedom and to the surface of the Earth, however welcome that passage will be. It's going to be pretty scary, isn't it?
It was scary, I think, for any normal person like you or me, but talking to the specialists who deal with these miners, they say it'll be a walk in the park for these men, a very long walk in the park, but these are tough guys.
Right. Tim, let's leave it there for a minute. We can also see the Chilean flag there in front of the winch. This is where all the action has been, where the action will be in serious in the next few hours. That's it for now, for this BBC News special. Well, welcome back to this BBC News special from Camp Hope outside the San Jose mine near Copiapo in the Atacama Desert of Chile, where of course it is nighttime, it is cold, but down below where the miners are still waiting, it's probably about 33 degrees or so. It is warm, it is damp, it is very, very dark, And any minute now, any hour now, I should say, we expect the first miner to come up to the surface. That will be a moment of extreme joy for the families here. And just to remind you that this BBC News special is being seen on the UK on BBC Two, on the BBC News channel. It's being seen around the world on BBC World. It's being watched in Australia by Australian ABC 24-hour news and in America on PBS. So welcome to you all for watching this extraordinary coverage as it unfolds here in Camp Hope in Chile, where really the clock is ticking down for that first rescue. As we just saw, the capsule has come up. That was the final test run. It will go down very soon with a medic, a Navy medic. He will then assess the medical condition of the miners and bring up the first miner for this rescue to begin in earnest. Well, let's bring in my colleague Tim Wilcox. Tim, what's the latest you can tell us?
Well, the latest, Matt, is we're joined on the stage here by a couple of people, and this is Johnny Gabriel, who is the primo, the cousin of Carlos Mamani, the only non-Chilean member in the mine now. He is expected to fly back, we think maybe tomorrow, with President Evo Morales, and Johnny's friend Michael, who actually speaks English, so
right.
we can
Michael,
talk to
step
Michael.
a little bit closer, because then we can, okay, just like this. Can we see Michael? Excellent. Michael, tell us, when did you arrive from Bolivia?
I arrived about 3 hours ago.
Right.
I drove from La Paz,
How long did that take?
1,800 kilometers. And well, I'm so happy to be here that I already forgot all the way.
What does this story mean for you personally?
For
and
me,
for the people of Bolivia, indeed.
yes, for us, for all of us, it's a message. It's a message that when you have the will, you have the advantage of doing things well. Things happen, and I think that this is the day where we must think that people all over the world need to be together.
Let's say welcome to heaven, bienvenido, amigo. ¿Es usted el único familiar de la familia del minero boliviano aquí o hay otros? I asked him if he's the only family member of the Bolivian miner here.
Mira, están realmente el suegro, está la esposa, está la niña, están los más cercanos, pero aparte de eso estamos apoyándoles ahí, los primos parientes como nosotros somos ahí, está Edmita, están varios ahí también, primos parientes, pero nosotros respetamos porque realmente tiene esta la familia más cercana.
So the immediate family is here, but he's come as well. ¿Por qué ha venido usted? Why have you come?
Mira, es una alegría fatal, nosotros por deber, por apoyar, porque realmente nosotros llevamos este rojo, amarillo, verde en el corazón y no podemos perdernos no importaba los kilómetros que hemos viajado, 4 días de viaje desde La Paz, pero queremos ver estas maquinarias, esta técnica que realmente tiene Chile para poder salvar a Carlos Mamani.
And I want to translate that quickly.
Well, just saying that they've come to express their solidarity, to show their strength here, but I just wanted to ask him also, ¿has hablado con su primo? ¿Ha hablado con su primo todavía o no? ¿Cómo está?
No, esa es una restricción que solamente tiene que ser la esposa, o sea, no se puede más. O sea,
Okay, so his wife, so Carlos Mamani's wife has spoken to him. ¿Y cómo está? And how is he?
Sí, está mejor. Nosotros hubiéramos querido que realmente sea el primero en salir, pero realmente aquí no importa que salga primero o segundo, la cosa es que realmente...
Bueno, va a salir el cuarto, ¿no?
El cuarto.
So he's coming up as number 4, so he will be up extremely quickly.
And the Chilean president, by the way, the Bolivian president, Evo Morales, has promised him land. Ha prometido tierra, ¿no? Algo, un regalo del presidente.
Sí, sabemos. Realmente ha ofrecido trabajo, ha ofrecido beca. Cochabamba. Ellos residen la familia allá, realmente ellos, yo sé que tiene gran amor hoy por la gente pobre que ha migrado a las ciudades en busca de mejores días, a lo mejor de más recursos, y Evo Morales está en eso, está consciente y vamos a estar mañana.
So basically he's saying that, rather patriotically, that Evo Morales, the president of Bolivia, who was, by the way, a coca farmer before he became a president, a politician, who came from the poorest ranks of Bolivian society. He is someone who can identify with that, says, you know, this is about solidarity for the working man. These people travel a very long way in order to earn a crust as miners, and as we can see from what's been unfolding in recent months, it's a pretty difficult crust when accidents like this happen. Their own family, and there's been quite a bit of politics there about who's allowed to be in that holding centre, who's not allowed to be there. There have been a few rather well-publicised rows between wives and mistresses, fathers and sons not getting on with each other that well. This is a human drama in all its rather messy incarnation. I think that's what we're seeing here in the full glare of international publicity. It is also, on one level, a very intricate procedural plumbing story about how to get these people out of the ground 2,000 feet below. We may be able to go to the moon, we can send a man into space, but getting men from 2,000 feet below the surface, which is not really that much of a distance, has proven to be rather difficult. Let's just take you back to what's happening at the moment. This is the rescue site. The capsule, the Phoenix, has just come up. They've had their final test here. I don't know what exactly they're looking at here, but I'm assuming that they just want to make sure that all the nuts and bolts are there, that all the ducks are on their own, all the other cliches that one can think of or perhaps not think of when it comes to what needs to be done. We're slightly in the dark here because we don't know what they're saying to each other, although they have been extremely good about informing us at every level of this journey. And they seem to be kind of fiddling with certain parts of this capsule over and over again. I just sincerely hope, Tim Wilcox, that that doesn't spell any trouble for anyone.
So do I, and it looks as if they're just tightening some of those bolts, doesn't it, or changing something on that capsule. What is interesting, though, that they're doing this last dry run now with all the expectation here, with all the focus, all the live pictures coming from them. When they did those tests yesterday, we didn't have any of this at all, and what we heard was everything went without a glitch. I just wonder now if at the start of this Operation San Lorenzo there are a few glitches, because it certainly didn't appear to my mind to go right the way down to the bottom of the shaft, which is what they were intending to do. And it looks as if they're having to make some adjustments there with the president watching over them as well. So some anxious
pressure.
Exactly.
The pressure's on. Just remind us why it's called Operation San Lorenzo.
San Lorenzo is the patron saint of miners, and a lot of shrines to him have been set up around here and indeed across Chile, along with another saint, San Expedito, who is a Roman centurion figure who is the patron saint of lost causes.
Ah, there we go. Well, we hope that this isn't a lost cause.
Exactly. That's why they've been praying to him. Lost causes or impossible causes.
There's a lot of faith here, isn't there? I mean, these miniature.
And then the fourth person up is Carlos Mamani. Now he is the only non-Chilean, the Bolivian, and
we just spoke to his cousin earlier.
We just spoke to his cousin.
And we should just point out, Tim, that the capsule, the Phoenix, the famous Phoenix, has gone back down again into the hole. I'm assuming with no one inside it. But clearly they're worried about something. They keep testing this thing. Having tested it yesterday quite a few times and earlier today, they're testing it again at the very moment when they're supposed to be lowering the first medic.
And I think, what is perhaps potentially one of the problems is that Plan B went in at an angle. It started at an angle, which was the causing problem for the drill bits, and then it changes direction slightly. Now, only the first 54 meters of this shaft is lined with steel tubing. After that, it goes into the rock, which has been drilled out. And I'm just wondering how far that capsule has got down. Because if, for example, there's been a shift or a change in the rock, and that is preventing it going down, then we could be looking at hours more, before that capsule can go down. But as you say, yesterday these trials went without a hitch. So I wonder if something has happened in the last few hours which could have caused this. But this is all
this is conjecture.
All conjecture and speculation.
The interesting thing also is, Tim, that I mean, of course, we have to remember that the reason why this mining disaster happened in the first place is that the roof in the mine collapsed, bringing down 700,000 tons.
700,000 tons of
rock and rubble, and it's just possible that part of that shaft is indeed more brittle than they had thought, which is why they put that lining there in the first place. Let's look at the exact procedure of what we hope, what we expect, what people here expect will actually happen once the Phoenix goes down with someone inside it and comes up with one of those trapped miners. Here's our colleague Daniel Butcher.
After the waiting and the fears for those trapped underground, the last stage of the rescue is finally underway. Of the 3 shafts that engineers started to improve their chances of reaching the miners 700 meters below the surface, it is the middle one of these, which is now their route to safety. A paramedic was sent down first to check the men's health and to help finalize the order in which they're being winched up. Inside the capsule, each miner is equipped with a biometric belt that measures vital signs, heartbeat, breathing and temperature. It will also help monitor stress levels. Throughout the slow journey to the surface, the miners are in constant communication with rescue workers and medics, and each man has a specially made waterproof suit. And because the miners have been so long without natural light, they're wearing protective sunglasses. There is also an oxygen supply to assist breathing. Some of the strongest miners with the most technical skills were chosen to go first in case there are problems. And if the capsule does get stuck anywhere along the shaft, there is a mechanism to detach the base that would allow a miner to be lowered back down to the refuge. There are still significant risks. Only part of the shaft is lined. In places it isn't straight, and after each rescue the capsule will have to be checked to make sure it's safe to go back down. So even if there are no unforeseen problems, it could take a total of 2 days until all the men are safely back above ground.
Let's just walk down though, because this slope we've got to know quite well over the last few weeks. All barriered off now, but the crowds of people waiting here along with the international media crews. We've just been hearing from Alicia Campos speaking to us a moment ago. Her son Daniel Herrera, as you were saying, coming up at number 16. She's just below our position where we are standing, or standing a moment ago, and here's Alicia. She's making pan amasado. Now, night after night we've been speaking to Alicia siempre around this fire here as she's been waiting for Daniel Herrera. Carla está fuera, no? Because okay, her daughter Carla, who's here with her young children, has gone back to Rancagua. But Alicia, as we heard, along with Daniel's sister and brother, will be the first to meet him. ¿A qué hora va a salir?
Yo creo que a las 2 de la tarde de mañana.
Ah, sí? In serio?
Sí.
I've just asked her what time she thought he was actually going to come out, and she looked rather sort of mournfully and said, I think about 2 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. So if he's number 16, sí, bueno, suerte, hasta luego. Let's come around here. So let's come and look at some of the other families here. You can see the shrines that we've been picking up on over the last few weeks as well. This is Mario Sepulveda. He is the official spokesman. He's coming up at number 2. This is Mario Sepulveda Papito. This is obviously from his children here. He has been the group's official spokesman, and he's been talking into camera. Let's just keep on walking down here, though. We can see some of the screens here. Actually, this is another one here, Richard Villarroel. I'm not quite sure which number he's coming up, but here we go. Look, Jimmy Sanchez, who is just 19. Now, he's coming up, I think, at number 6. He has got a young child. He's only 19. He's had a very tough time below ground. The older miners have had to look after him. His father, Juan Sanchez, who himself is a miner, said that Jimmy was reassured by the older members but had found it difficult, but was now looking forward, obviously, to getting up to the surface and was much calmer. Amongst these crowds here, we've got the screens. These are the live pictures the Chilean authorities are broadcasting to all the people who are not actually with their families in Camp Hope or upstairs. Up here we've got one of the international agencies providing live shots, all these scaffolds built up as well. Let's see if we can just go and find Alfonso Avalos. We spoke to him earlier. His son, Florencio, is the first one up, and we've been speaking to him in recent days. There's a lot of now. Let's just, in fact, I'm just hearing that we might have a technical problem with some of our pictures now, but if you can just see down there, there's a lot of activity around Alfonso Avalos. Let's keep on going, actually, because I think we are still in vision. We're just worried with our camera how far we can penetrate, but we've been down here before. Let's just see how much further we can go. Now, there's a whole mob of press around the Avalos family, and I'll just see if we can just squirrel through and just speak to them if we can, because they do know us here. Let's see if we can just mingle in, and here we go. Alfonso watching pictures. Can we just get in here now? My goodness, everyone just looking in on the Avalos family and his wife, Maria, I think finding all this extremely difficult. Alfonso Avalos wearing a hat with his wife, but his wife looking really rather uncomfortable with all this activity. But Florencio, the first one to come up this evening at some stage. His other son, Renan, will be coming up later on, and in fact, Alfonso and his wife will be able to see them as well. I don't even think I can get a word in here now. I think they're watching a screen which is being set up here now. Let's just move away from there now and just come to outside the barriers. Disculpe, puedo pasar. And a big screen down here at the bottom as well. And I think that's Lawrence Goulbourne talking to some of the miners there. Now we can just see to the right. This is down by the canteen here. This was catering for about 300 people at weekends of families, but since then has been catering for thousands of people. And here we have here we have Rolly, the clown, who's come here as a volunteer. ¿Qué tal? ¿Cómo se siente?
Súper bien, súper contento.
Súper bien.
Ya estamos preparando la fiesta, esto para recibir a los mineros.
Sí, sí, y mañana van a subir. ¿Sí?
Claro, y vamos a entregar 1000 globos al cielo para recibir a los mineros. Okay?
What he's going to do, he's going to put up 1,000 balloons, he says, tomorrow to celebrate the fact that the miners are coming up. This man has come from a different area of Chile. This man has worked here for absolutely nothing as a volunteer. Y cuando salgan, ¿qué va a hacer?
Hacer una gran fiesta, vamos a estar todos contentos, muy felices de estar acá.
Se va a tu casa, ¿no?
Claro, después a mi casa todo normal nomás.
Okay, so he's saying that when it's all over, gracias, Rolly. When it's all over, he's going to be having a huge party and then going back to his house. So that's just an idea of what is happening here at Camp Hope at the moment. Some of these families who've been camped out the whole time, of course, now being absolutely swamped by the media, waiting to see what their reactions are when, for example, Alfonso Avalos sees his father come to the service. Just one other, just before I go back to you, Matt, just one other family over here. This is where the sister of Dario Segovia, who's got 12 brothers and sisters, she has been camped out here, and you can see, again, a lot of media interested in them. The sister of Dario, Maria, known as the mayor of Camp Hope, La Alcaldesa, the woman who really has been driving things, the woman who named Plan B drill the miracle, El Milagro, for having got through. So, a long night here, still no sign of the first miner, but a party atmosphere, a carnival atmosphere at Camp Hope. Everyone willing on these rescuers, hoping to see the face of Florencio Avalos within the next hour and a half or so. Matt, back to you.
Thanks very much, Tim. Tim is just down there, by the way, in the crowd. And of course, all this, everything you can see here, Camp Hope, which looks like a sort of makeshift tent city, wasn't here, certainly not 2 months ago. It wasn't really even here a month ago. This has just mushroomed with time as people have turned up, family members, reporters, politicians. It's become a drama, a kind of alternative reality in its own right. We've got Big Brother happening down below at 2,000 feet. We've got sort of Bigger Brother happening at this level. And what's been one of the most extraordinary aspects of this story is the communication between these two realities, between these two worlds, the world above ground, which is a bit of a circus, as you can see, the world below ground, which is essentially a very dark, a very wet, a very hot prison for these miners, where they've been able to communicate in an extraordinary way. I mean, every day capsules have been sent down containing videos, a video recorder, that's how we were able to get all these pictures, stuff for them to wash. They've had makeshift showers down there because of a natural waterfall in the rock. One of the miners has been exercising every day because, of course, it's not just a mine cavity. We're talking about a kilometre of mine tunnels not affected by the collapse of debris and rock on the 5th of August, where this man's been able to run up and down. He's been running apparently 3 kilometres every day to stay fit. It really is quite strange. Of course, they've been able to talk to their family members every day as well. So some of the kind of drama has slowly been unfolding about what wives are saying to husbands, mistresses intervening. There's a case of the father not getting on with one of the sons, the first miner who's going to come up. Well, Tim spoke to his father earlier on. His father doesn't expect to see his first son because they fell out with each other, but he does expect to see his younger brother, who's also down there trapped in the mine. So this extraordinary, kind of bizarre, slightly messy, but very touching and poignant human drama that's been unfolding here. And then all the time, of course, we have the political level. We just heard from Lawrence Goldborn earlier. He's the mining minister of this country. The president here, Sebastián Piñera, who is not just here now waiting to greet the miners. He came early this afternoon. He met the families. He then prayed together with the families. He's going to be camping out here tonight as well. He's got a camper van parked around the corner from here. Rather lavish, one would hope, expect. He'll be here as well. And he's an interesting character because he's a billionaire. He made his money as a businessman. He owned one of the television stations here in Chile. He had owned a quarter of the shares in the national airline. He had not greatness thrust upon them. That's what's happening to the miners. He was born to greatness. He was the son of the former Chilean ambassador to the United Nations. He spent a lot of time in New York. Anyway, we didn't really know much about him before. We know quite a lot about him now, and he's handled this extremely shrewdly, this whole affair. Tim has come back to the platform.
Having been squeezed out of the Avalos family, I just can't believe...
But you know them all, don't you? You know everyone here.
No, I don't know, we'll talk by enemies, but I
You'll
can't
get
believe...
the keys to Camp Hope if you're not careful.
I'll get the drill bits of in memory of what's happened, I think. But
are they getting worried down there, by the way?
They don't seem to be, but Alfonso Avalos' wife, Maria, they're all a shy family, but she looked particularly troubled. I mean, it is quite grotesque, actually. I mean, they're sitting there, surrounded by the world's media, just watching their every move. Every time they put a bit of bread in their mouth, photographers get closer, just waiting to see how they react when that first sun comes
up. That scrutiny must be unbearable, I would have thought, at this stage especially.
Yeah, and I think for the father in the last few days, he's found it incredibly difficult. I've seen him break down twice now, and his brother. Now, these are guys who are very, very strong, but he found the pressure too much yesterday when somebody was just checking his accreditation, suggesting that he might not be able to stay here because he arrived long before the Chilean authorities were handing out accreditation.
No, I mean, there's the human story, which we've been covering, you especially, extensively, and then there's the plumbing story, if I can put it like that.
And so it's wonderful.
I mean, these men are really tough, they're really courageous, they have become heroes, and rightly so. How will they cope with the burdens of freedom when they finally emerge here? I mean, it's going to be very difficult for them to adapt to normal life for a bit, won't it?
Well, they were anonymous, and when you lose your anonymity, then you think it's all over. I think they have a very, very tough life after that. All the TV stations are battling for them, offering money. They have invitations to go to the Manchester United match. Football match.
Oh, really? Manchester United have asked them to come, right?
Yeah, and the Real Madrid, and they're invited by the Greek government to go to the beaches. How will they live with that, and how will they live with that is over? Because it will be over someday.
And the families here were united in solidarity at first, and since then we've had a lot of politics, not just between the families, but also within the families. I mean, that'll be a bit of a nightmare as well, won't it?
Well, within the families, there are miners that are separated, divorced, and they have two families, and they are battling here. They are fighting here because there will be a lot of money running here.
And in one case, we had a wife arguing, I mean, rowing, fighting with the mistress.
Yes, and with the mother sometimes, and the mistress, the mother of the children. It's kind of a complicated thing. And there are divisions with the families. Some of them are supporters of Codelco, and the other ones are supporters, the most of them, of a rescue team, independent rescue team, who came here the first, and who made that drilling to find them since the first day. So there are many divisions here.
And Rafael, tell me, there's been a lot of talk about the heroes and the rescue operation. But at the same time, we know that these miners want to take the government, the authorities, to court over the appalling safety standards at this mine. We know that this mine was shut down for more than a year precisely because of safety issues. How safe is mining in Chile, which is such an important industry to this country?
Well, there is little mines, medium mines, and big mines. On the big mines, there is a lot of security rules, and they are always followed. But in the middle one like this and the little ones, security doesn't exist. The first day I came here to cover the story, I went to a mine, a little mine, and people were exploding, making an explosion without no security measure. I was there, and I saw how many times do they arrest? I don't know, 5 I think, and they get out of the mine and leave it open. Nobody was there. They could have been an accident, and I think we don't know a lot of how do they work, and there are many poor conditions of security, and the government, I don't know if they know, but they don't care.
Right. Well, talking of that, I mean, President Piñera seems to care. He certainly says he cares. He's been here in the mine. I think this is his 6th visit. Tell us about him, because the president is a very fascinating character, isn't he? He's a billionaire. There are not an awful lot of people you can say that about, being billionaire presidents. He used to own 25% of the national airline, and he owned an entire television channel, which he's now sold to Time Warner. Why has he been driving this in the way that he has? Is it, can one be cynical here for political reasons or not?
Well, it's a kind of mixture. He really likes the TV on the first time.
He likes the TV?
He likes it very much. More than the money, some say. And
we've got plenty of that anyway.
And he went to office with a 62% of support, and now he's close to 70%. He has managed this crisis with a very clever way to do things, and he's, I think, adapting the agenda to their own purposes in some way. He was yesterday he was in Ecuador. Friday he's going to Europe, and the rescue operation starts now. Many people ask, couldn't they start before? Why now? Why today? Why he's here to start the process? It's a kind of mixture.
Rafael Cavado, thank you very much for talking to us. And that was Rafael Cavado. He's one of the journalists here in Chile who came to see us on our little podium here outside Camp Hope at the San Jose mine in Copiapo. Now let's just return quickly to those live images that you're getting from Chilean television of the winching process. Now the good news is that we can see a wheel turning. That's good news these days. It's just stopped very briefly, that wheel. Whether that means that the capsule has actually reached the bottom or not, whether this is just another routine test, whether something has gone wrong, we do not know, and we cannot unfortunately tell you. However, this is where the action will be. There's a bit of a conversation going on now between several mining officials, rescue officials. I really couldn't tell you what they're saying, and I'm not terribly good at lip reading Spanish, but there we go. This is going to be the hole through which they will emerge. But when that will be, whether it will indeed be before midnight as we had predicted earlier, we simply don't know. We don't know if there's been a particular hitch. What we do know is that the families camped out here at Camp Hope are getting slightly less hopeful. Not that they've given up hope by any means. They think this is going to still end in cheers rather than tears, but they are feeling a little bit anxious about why this process has been dragged out for so long. Meanwhile, the air is cold and filled with the smell of wood smoke and 100 fires burning as people try and keep warm and try and make some sort of makeshift meal in this strange encampment in the middle of the Atacama Desert here in Chile.
And we have many events always that we need to get together. And after the earthquake, we did a telethon 4 days after, and we raised $120 million. This country is only 16 million people. It's about $8 for each person. We have a lot of solidarity in our country.
The world's focus on these men, they went into this shaft on August the 5th as miners. They're coming out now as international celebrities. How are they going to cope? Do you fear for the future for these men, with all the attention on their private lives, the children they've got by different women, the money they're going to have? What are your thoughts?
Well, that's a big challenge, because they're going to make movies here and everything. This is a worldwide story, and this is a unique event. Yeah, I think they're going to have problems. They have to focus very strong in his own family, and this is difficult. They're minors.
That was Don Francisco, the journalist, and here we're watching live pictures of President Piñera the man with the hard hat and the red overalls sitting down with some of the, I'm assuming, some of the children of the miners' families, having a very good time with them. It's a bit like a sort of family outing with hard hats, isn't it, Tim Wilcox? I mean,
it's like a nighttime barbecue here. They're all sort of eating, and I mean, there's an element of a sort of music festival. It sort of struck me, and they're watching the pictures here on big screens, but everyone looking very relaxed, and that's interesting, isn't it? Just how relaxed they are looking, bearing in mind that we thought this capsule would have been up and down and might even have started bringing the first miners up now. The lady just behind Sebastián Piñera, Jimena Matas, the intendente here, effectively his representative in this region. But Sebastián Piñera, who has been here 5 times before, now here this evening, hoping to see that first miner brought up before midnight, smiling, chatting to these families. But one wonders if this is all going according to plan, because we had thought at least one would be up by midnight, and we've got just over an hour to go.
It's interesting, isn't it, Tim? I mean, Sebastián Piñera has presided over this country only since March. He kicked off his presidency with an earthquake. Not his fault, of course, but during the inauguration, the actual ceremony was shaken by aftershocks of that earthquake.
That opening ceremony in Valparaiso, and the chandeliers were shaking as he walked in, and people looked up just as the oath was being read out, and the whole building shook. And everyone was saying, is that a portent of doom, or is that an auspicious sign?
And but he's done rather well since then, hasn't he? And he's handled this crisis pretty well. But here's a question for you, Tim. I mean, some of the miners we know are going to try and take the government to court over the mining safety record. When I interviewed him a few weeks ago, I asked him about that, and he gave a very vague but hopeful answer that yes, indeed, the mining safety issue would be resolved. There would be new regulation. I mean, mining is an incredibly important business for this booming country. Are they actually going to do something about it?
Well, they're being sued, and when I spoke to the mining minister about it, he said, look, these people have to do what they want. It's going to go through the courts. Just as we speak, actually, Matt, that wheel is spinning backwards now quite quickly, which suggests
quite quickly, indeed,
that maybe it has gone down to the bottom and is now coming back up. But yes, the families are furious, not only with the San Esteban Mine Company, which owns San Jose Mine, but also furious with the Chilean authorities, because there was a fatal accident here, one of several, in 2007. The mine shut for a year, but then was allowed to reopen. And it is claimed that all the emergency procedures, the emergency ladders, the tunnels and everything else that should have been in place by law were not.
And now the miners themselves, we know from what the families have been saying, were very worried indeed.
Yeah, and the families are furious about that. How was it possible, they say, could a mine this old, more than 100 years old, with a safety record which is really very poor, how could that have been allowed to reopen? And that is why they are suing the Chilean authorities as well. And they're suing for a minimum of $1 million per family. And when I spoke to one of the leading organisers of this case, and I said, is that going to be enough? She said, this is just the start. This is just the amount we start from. It'll be much more than that.
Of course, if this was America, Tim, there'd be a whole tent village full of lawyers, but I haven't seen any yet.
I haven't seen any lawyers here. There are lawyers down in Copiapó, and there are rumours also, just in terms of the money-making side of these things now, that agents are around trying to sign up families with particularly good stories to sell on, maybe for film and book rights. Now, if that is the case, I think we're going to see a very interesting development to this story, with people trying to cash in on what has been the most awful ordeal for all these men underground, and indeed their families, who in the first 17 days didn't even know if these men were alive.
This story doesn't cease to surprise, does it really? I mean, there's so many different layers to it.
Precisely. I mean, I think everyone has some sort of fascination with this, because at its core level, it goes back to that fear of being buried alive. And I think that is probably what everyone imagines or imagines themselves in this scenario. But I think one shouldn't forget that these men are miners. These men are used to working in cramped, claustrophobic, dark, uncomfortable, filthy conditions.
And yet all of them have said they don't want to go back to mining after this, and who can blame them?
And a lot of them said, even when they were here, they didn't want to do it, but they were doing it just to buy a car, to try and buy a house, to try and put their children through university. In fact, one of them Jorge Galleguillos, an older man. His son is at university in Chile, and he wrote to the Chilean education minister saying, please can you set up a school for the children here, and please can you help my son who's worried about not being able to finance his next term at university. And the education minister said, we're looking after him, we're sorting it. Be interesting to see quite how long that continues for and what the long-term result of that is.
Tim Wilcox, thank you very much indeed. Well, we leave you with these images of President Piñera walking amongst the crowds here, somewhere behind me. I'm not quite sure where exactly, but of course he is hoping that all this will come to a conclusion very swiftly. There, the wheel turning rather rapidly. I wonder if that's good news or indifferent news. We wait to find out. Just a reminder that you are watching a BBC News special here from Camp Hope, a smoke-filled Camp Hope outside the San Jose copper mine in Copiapó in the Atacama Desert of Chile. A very cold place still full of hope tonight. Welcome back to this BBC special on BBC Two in the United Kingdom, on the BBC News channel in the same country, on BBC World around the world, on BBC America. We welcome you, viewers in the United States, to the special program, and let's not forget our friends in Australia who are watching this on the ABC News channel, and of course also on BBC Online. This event here is being streamed live around the world. A story that has captivated the world's interest because it deals with such an essential human drama. The captivity of 33 men underground, 2,000 feet underground, for 68 days. It is a world record, 69 days by now, a world record, but it's also been a huge ordeal for the miners themselves and of course for the families that have been waiting anxiously here. I spoke to one of the mothers of one of the miners. She's called Alicia Herrera. She's the mother of Daniel Herrera. He's going to be the 16th miner, according to the very careful pecking order that's been drawn up, to come out of the ground when indeed that process finally begins. Let's just listen to that interview with her.
Es bueno el número porque van a ver harto, se van a experimentar, van a ver bien cómo subieron los otros. Entonces,
Un momentito, por favor, porque tenemos que traducirlo en inglés. So this is one of the mothers who's been patiently waiting here at the mine site. She was just saying that she's very happy that her son is number 16 to come up. Not a bad number at all, it's right in the middle, but she's been patient, she will continue to be patient. ¿Qué es la última cosa que su hijo ha dicho a usted? What's the last thing your son has told you?
que no me preocupe, que ya va a estar, van a estar con nosotros.
So he's told her not to be worried, that he'll be with her very, very soon, and that he'll be very happy to see her. ¿Qué es la primera cosa que va a decir a su hijo? What's the first thing you're going to tell your son?
Primero que todo voy a dar gracias a Dios que la Madre Tierra nos devolvió a nuestro hijo, a mi hijo, y segundo abrazarlo mucho, mucho, porque tanto tiempo que no nos vemos y que van a hacer de nuevo.
She's going to kiss him first, she's going to embrace him, she's going to thank God for this miracle that she's prayed for and that he is safe. ¿Su hijo qué va a hacer con el futuro de su vida? What's your son going to do in the
No
future?
decir qué va a hacer de su futuro porque no hemos conversado eso. Y él cuando salga, él va a ver qué es lo que va a hacer. Depende de cómo llegue.
Depends what state he's in when he arrives. They haven't really had a chance to talk about the future. It's a bit early days for that. Pero minero no va a ser, no? He's not going to be a miner again.
Yo creo que no. Volver a trabajar acá a la mina, no. Pero yo creo que va a trabajar, sí, pero se va a dar su tiempo. Que esté bien.
¿Ha sido difícil para usted? Has it been very difficult for
Sí,
you?
como difícil estos momentos, especialmente los primeros 17 días.
So she
Ahora
said,
ya se siente más felicidad porque
she said something that we've been talking about, Tim and I, which is that the first 17 days were particularly difficult porque usted ha pensado que su hijo ha muerto, ¿no? Because you thought that your son might have died.
También se pensó en días, pasaban los días y se perdió una sonda, se perdió la segunda y dije yo creo que aquí ya no los van a encontrar si están vivos.
And that was Alicia Campos. She's the mother of Daniel Herrera, one of the miners who's going to be brought up, we hope, in the next 24 hours or 30 hours or so. He's supposed to be miner number 16 to come to the surface here. But of course that operation has not yet started in earnest. The capsule, the famous Phoenix capsule, has gone down, I believe, 3 times now, or twice actually in the last hour. We're not quite sure why they're doing this, why they're having to test it again. Every time it comes up, they carry on fiddling with it with screwdrivers and hammers. Perhaps something is remiss, perhaps it's something in the shaft, we simply don't know. But we've just been told that the next time it goes down, it will contain a medic. A naval doctor will go down, and that is the beginning of the operation to bring these men to the surface in earnest. Now, this has been going on now for 69 days. It took 17 days for the world to discover that the miners were actually not dead, that they were alive. That's after they sent up a note, a scribbled note saying, "Estamos bien los 33, we're all well, all 33 of us, in the refuge at the bottom of the mine." When that was discovered, a cheer went up and the drilling operation started in earnest.
The miners formed a remarkable community, organising themselves to look after each other and the shelter. They played games, celebrated Independence Day, and watched Chile play Ukraine thanks to a projector attached to a fibre optic cable. This vital link helped them and their families endure the ordeal. And while the rescue drills inched downwards, the media circus grew. This epic survival story caught the world's imagination. Sometimes it became like a soap opera. There were touching moments like the birth of this baby girl, while her father, Ariel Tacona, was trapped in the mine.
It was Ariel who asked me to change the name. I was going to call her Carolina Elizabeth, and he asked for her to be called Esperanza. Firstly, after the name Camp Hope, but also for his hope of getting out of there.
And along with baby Hope has come Phoenix, the name given to specially designed capsules to carry each miner to the surface. So now the end is in sight. The miners are mostly fit and well and doing what they can to help the rescue effort. But after so long in the heat, the humidity and the darkness, they'll need time to adjust. They and their country have faced the ultimate test. And global fame could yet mean many more challenges when they reach the surface. Emily Buchanan, BBC News.
Well, there we have it, the story of the operation so far, this unfolding drama, and we can now go to live pictures of the Phoenix capsule. These are some of the mining officials standing around that capsule, the rescue officials. There we have the capsule itself, and it looks as if the first man to go in is getting ready to go in. I've got Tim Wilcox here with me. Can you tell us a little bit more about who's actually supposed to be going down?
We think it's a man called Manuel González Pávez, who works for Codelco. There we are.
That's it, this is the moment.
He is going down. 20 years of mining experience. Cheers here at Camp Hope as he gets into that Phoenix 2. He's an expert in vertical ascents. He's taken part in a number of mine emergencies, and he's married with 2 children, and President Piñera wishing him luck. Manuel González Pávez saying thank you very much, and my goodness.
This is the beginning of the operation in earnest. This is it, isn't it?
This is him going down now. The sirens and cheers around us, willing this man on. 622 meters down. The first man down in this shaft to make contact physically with the 33 underground.
And if everything goes according to plan, Tim, the next human face that we will see inside that capsule belong to the miners.
The first one up, Florencio Avalos, 31, married, 2 children, the cameraman for the miners underground. That is the face we next expect to see in about half an hour's time. So really now, just at 11 local time, this seems to be the start of this rescue operation. After all these weeks and months of drilling, the arduous task of breaking through to the shelter where the men have been waiting, the rescue operation starting now properly.
Final touches in place here. They've been doing a lot of that, and they just want to make sure that nothing is left to chance.
Yeah, it looks like some oxygen, just checking the oxygen tanks there. My goodness, what a moment for this man, Manuel González Pávez. Everyone around the world watching him. He has done similar rescues before but presumably never before at depths like this.
And we've just been told that the company here has officially declared the beginning of the final stage of this rescue operation. So this is it. This is the final phase. This is the beginning of the end of the ordeal for these miners. What exactly will he be doing when he gets down there, Tim?
He'll be looking and assessing some of the more seriously ill, talking to them, reassuring them presumably as well. The men know which order they're coming up now. They will presumably be huddled down below. We expect to hopefully to get some pictures of that at a later stage. And then he'll be harnessing up that first man, Florencio Avalos.
Why the oxygen? I mean, they've got air down below because that's being pumped in there. This is presumably in case they get stuck in the middle of the shaft.
If they get stuck, if anyone panics, if there's a panic attack as well, they'll need to make sure that they can keep their breathing going. But look at this, look at the size of that capsule, the size of a torpedo. Hardly any room really to move around inside as it slips into that tube and makes its way down through the drilled through granite there.
Now, and just imagine that thing stuck in the middle of the Earth's crust with a view only of rock. I mean, if you're prone to claustrophobia, it must be a really scary place to be.
It would be for me. I think it would be for most normal people, but for miners who are used to working in these conditions, one rescue worker said it would be like a walk in the park, a long walk in the park, but pretty scary stuff. And of course, if it gets jammed in any way, the only way you can get out is by winching yourself from below down. So if you got jammed maybe 100 meters down or 150 meters down, that's a heck of a long way to let yourself down with a winch.
He's able to move around inside of there quite freely, I'm thinking.
Oh, well, I think actually, isn't that the man on the outside? I think doing the locking things up there now.
And this capsule, of course, the Phoenix capsule is painted in the Chilean colours, which you've seen rather a lot of, haven't they, recently?
A huge amount of. This is a source of national pride, this whole rescue operation. It's something which has galvanized the country as well. Any Chilean you talk to about this, talks about this sense of unity here. The fact that Chile wants to do this well, Chile wants to show the world what it can do. It can lead an event like this and bring about some sort of successful outcome.
Well, there we have it. He's gone in. They're going to lock that gate soon, and then I guess it'll be a passage down. It's 640 meters, Tim, isn't it? So
622 meters.
There we go. Thank you for that, Tim. And so how long do you think it'll take?
I think about 15 minutes, 15-20 minutes. Going a slightly slower on the way down, slightly faster on the way up, at about a meter a second on the way up, slightly slower than that on the way down, but slower than your average lift, your elevator, maybe in a skyscraper.
And do we think that it's literally going to be up and down? I mean, unless there are any hitches. You know, once the first mine is brought up and he gets out of the cage, they'll lower the thing and the next one will get it.
Should do. That was the plan originally. But although we're getting these remarkable pictures in such close-up detail, what we're not getting is a stream of information explaining, for example, why it's taken till now to send the capsule down. So although the pictures tell their own story, the detail behind it, we're not here.
And they have been very good about giving us information, haven't they, in the past? They're just not doing it tonight.
Well, no, but they're doing it at arm's length as well. Yeah. And all mobile phone coverage has just collapsed here, given the sheer...
There's too many people like you and me here.
Too many people broadcasting, too many people trying to sort of email and send stuff digitally as well. So that's why. But look, there we can see him inside. The final last checks as this torpedo-shaped bullet.
And we gather that when every miner comes up, a siren will sound somewhere here to signify. I mean, if this was somewhere in West Virginia or Pennsylvania, maybe a village nearby, you'd have church bells, but we don't have that here, despite the fact that most people here are deeply faithful, aren't they? So there's probably a few quiet prayers going on right now.
I think there will be. And the other interesting thing, Matt, is that it's a very clear night. The Chilean authorities, indeed we as the international media, are lucky to be able to see this, because often when I've been up here in the middle of the night, you've got something called a Camanchaca, this pea soup cloud. We're so high up, we're here 2,000 meters up. So the clouds just swamp this place, and you can't see a thing. You literally can't see more than 2 or 3 meters in front of you.
And we've talked about sunglasses a bit in recent days. They've all been given these Oxley sunglasses, which apparently are very posh. I've never heard of them, quite frankly. I apologise to the company right now.
No, neither
but there we go.
And actually, since you got the name wrong, we haven't even given them
Oh, exactly. Well, there we go. Oakley, I think they're called. Anyway, the point is, they won't really need them, will they? Because they're coming up into darkness.
Well,
and although the lights are going to be very bright, I mean, at least this is an advantage for them, isn't it?
It is, but this whole operation is expected to take maybe a day and a half. So the sunlight here is particularly bright during the day. Temperatures reach about 30 degrees. But as you say, yeah, they've all been kitted out, donated these very expensive sunglasses, $400 a pair, by this Californian company, which they've given to each miner. Look at this. This is the oxygen just being checked now.
Yes, yeah. That's it. He's going in. That's it. Look, that looks like it. He's going to be strapped in.
Oh,
that's it. And the cheer goes up again. The reason why they're cheering, we should just mention, is that there is a giant screen at the end of what's now become sort of Main Street in Camp Hope, really, in the central square, which is a really rather small area, but that's where the makeshift school was. There's a stage there, and there's a big screen where they're showing them what you're seeing at home here on our screen. And there's a certain degree of impatience that has now taken hold here of the crowd. They've been waiting for 69 days. They want to see some action now in the form of miners coming up as opposed to capsules going down empty.
But look at this, Manuel González Chavez with his rucksack, looking nervous. Wouldn't anyone, going down that sort of depth in this capsule, right down to the depths of this mine.
And he will be the first human that they would have seen down there.
The first human they would have seen physically. They've been talking every day, they've seen pictures, but he will be the first human being to have penetrated that far underground for 69 days for these 33 miners.
Right. I'm going to close the gate in a minute. That's it. He's shut in. He's in his cage.
And the noise, Matt, I mean, just imagine that, because even though it's going to go through metal tubes to start off with, it's going to hit rock 54 meters down. It's going to be a bumpy, rattly, noisy ride right down to below the 622 meters.
Now, tell us about these green jumpsuits. Apparently they're going to be given, they have been given, or they will be given green jumpsuits that they're going to put on with their names embroidered on them.
Names on the back so they can be identified when they come up, but it's a special breathable material. Just on these pictures, Matt, the camera's panning around there. We saw Andres Segurat, the chief engineer.
That's it. Right.
But this is the moment, Matt. This is the moment that this man, Manuel González Chavez, becomes the first human being to be lowered down to the 33 miners. And the next man we'll see coming up in this Phoenix capsule.
You're getting better and better at saying his name, by the way, Tim.
I'm trying to say it in the South American way. I keep on mixing my awful Castellano with it as well.
There we go.
There we go.
That's it. It's going down. And the cheer will go up, no doubt, anytime soon. That's it. How extraordinary, huh? This is it.
Oh, there we go. What a moment for him, what a moment for the families watching this on these big screens.
You can see the wheel turning quite slowly, and the president of the country peering into the hole at the bottom of which lie 33 miners, but also a lot of his own political reputation has been staked on this.
The men won't have eaten now for the last 6 hours. They've been given liquids, but we can hear actually on this feed, we can hear Manuel speaking to the teams at the top.
It's going okay.
Can't hear what he's saying, but what's going on? That's right, they're trying to clip the rope to a sort of guide track.
To allow it to fall from centre through.
They've done that now. That's that orange thing that we've been seeing. Not much bigger than a bicycle wheel, that hole. I'm sure you've tried to step into something of that circumference in recent days and have found it, well, I wouldn't say tight-fitting, but not necessarily as comfortable as it could be.
One laughs and jokes about this, but just imagine, I mean, that's a long way down, isn't it? In a very tight space.
And of course, as you've been telling us, when he gets to the bottom, what he'll find is temperatures of what, 30 degrees centigrade, if not a bit hotter, which is why when we've seen pictures of the miners, they've always been shirtless down there because it's just too hot. It's sweltering heat, the damp, the darkness. I mean, it really is, as one of the miners said repeatedly, a living hell down there.
And now we have this 15-minute wait.
Yeah, exactly.
For Manuel to get to the bottom.
He will then, of course, be fitting the miners with the special belts to monitor their vital organs as...
It's a biometric belt which has been designed. We've been talking to the guy here who's been talking to the miners, basically to do their heart rate, their other levels and things as well, and all their vital signs will be monitored as they come up to the surface. And rescuers can actually then speak to them and help them if they're starting to panic as they come up.
So they'll be in constant contact with the miners as they come up.
Sebastián Piñera, the president, watching all this activity from the mouth of this tunnel. And one just thinks, you know, that with all this attention, all this focus now, they must be confident. They must be confident that nothing will go wrong now.
Well, there's a huge degree of anticipation here in the rather aptly named Camp Hope. I mean, we've been speaking to family members all day, and of course you've been speaking to them for the last 3 weeks while you've been camped here too, Tim. In fact, we spoke to the cousin of the only non-Chilean miner, Bolivian gentleman who's down there. This cousin travelled 1,800 kilometers to go and be here tonight with one of the rescue officials on board, but this man will come up again. It will not be a miner, as I wrongly reported earlier. I apologize for that. Information trickles through bit by bit here. This man will come up again. Then the capsule will go down with a medic, and then we will see a miner emerge, which hopefully won't be for too long. So here we are, Camp Hope, filling up with anticipation. No shortage of patients here. They've all been waiting for 69 days, of course. And this really is hopefully coming to a head quite soon. Tim.
Who we need to ask for help is not any of the international community, really. It's the one upstairs, is God. The first 17 days have been really tough. There was a general anguish, not knowing where they were. Yes, also the time when twice the mine was closed and shut down. But there is a voice from inside who was telling us that the people, our miners, were still alive. We did say that we weren't going to give up, and we didn't give up, and we have found them. And now that we were going to rescue, and now we are going to rescue them, and they will be safe and sound. I really congratulate you. Thank you, Minister Volvo. The First Lady, also, I congratulate you. Cristian Barra, congratulations. Everyone present, congratulations, and those who are not here, also congratulations, because we represent the absent people as well.
Y tu campo de flores bordado es la copia feliz del Edén. Majestuosa es la blanca montaña que te dio por baluarte el Señor, que te dio por baluarte el Señor. Ese mar que tranquilo te baña, te promete el futuro esplendor. Y ese mar que tranquilo te baña, te promete el futuro esplendor. Dulce patria, recibe los votos con que Chile sus alas juró. La tumba será de los libres, fue el asilo contra la opresión. La tumba será de los libres, fue el asilo contra la opresión. La tumba será de los libres, fue el asilo contra la opresión, fue el asilo contra la opresión, fue el asilo contra la opresión. ¡Sachi! ¡Sí! ¡Alguna! ¡Eh! ¡Sí, sí, sí! ¡Le, le, le! ¡Viva Chile! ¡Chile!
And there we have it, applause from the President of Chile and the First Lady after they sang the national anthem here. All the politicians, I guess half the cabinet's there, the mining officials, rescue officials, everyone there crowded around the winch in front of which they have placed a supersized Chilean flag just to hammer home the point that this is an exercise in national revival and patriotism and all the rest of it.
That wheel hasn't stopped turning once, Matt, has it? After the trials where there seem to be a few glitches, that wheel is now spinning constantly as that capsule goes all the way to the bottom. And as you were saying just a moment ago, the man inside that is not a paramedic. He is a mining rescue specialist, so he will not stay down there. He will come to the surface, but a paramedic will take his place when it comes to the surface, and he will go down, and then the miners will start to come to the surface. So potentially, at least one will be up around midnight, if not before.
It's quite an odd spectacle, isn't it, Tim? All these senior politicians, including the president of the country, peering into this 21-inch across hole that, you know, how much?
28, I think.
28. You're good on your facts when it comes to
you know,
these things.
I don't want to be sort of anal about it, but that's
Go on, Tim. Go on, push the boat out.
No, but 28 inches to get the capsule to go down.
All right, exactly. Well, those few inches do make a huge difference. Exactly.
They do, especially at our age.
Well, indeed they do. Let's not go there. But it's kind of odd to watch them all peering into this hole, full of expectation. And of course, you know, who knows where this story will be next week. I mean, I guess all the attention will have disappeared. This media village would have disappeared. But there are so many other aspects to it. Let's just kind of delve back into the melee of Camp Hope. Now, you took a little bit of a walk earlier on, Tim, to meet some of the people who've been here and to point out some of the details of what we can see on the ground level. So let's just revisit that moment. BBC News Special to viewers on BBC One in the UK. Of course, this is also being broadcast as a quick reminder on the BBC News channel, on BBC World, around the globe, on BBC America in the United States, and on ABC television. There we go. This is amazing. Pictures of the capsule arriving in the cavern 2,000 feet below. This is it. This is the moment where the cavern gets to the ground. You can see the miners there watching as the cavern appears. This is an extraordinary sight. There it is, being lowered into the cavern. That is what will take the miners up to the surface, one after the other, 33 altogether. Another Chilean flag, lo and behold, this one at the bottom of the mine, so the point isn't lost. Now a miner, we don't know who it is, shirtless, because of course it's incredibly hot down there, opening the capsule to welcome the man who's just been lowered down. What an incredible moment this must be for them. This is the first human being that they've seen in 69 days who's not one of them. There we go. The moment of contact.
He is getting out, Manuel González Pávez, greeting these miners who have not seen another human being in the flesh for 69 days. Look at these moments now, embracing each other, the men exhausted, dreaming of this moment, the rescue about to start properly now. All their dreams, everything they've been hoping for, about to happen in the next few hours.
Lots of embraces to get through. Every single one of the 33 men is getting a hug from Mr. Pávez down there. He apparently will get up to the ground again, and then the medic will come down. But this is the beginning of the operation. I mean, just imagine these pictures, a live camera down below in this cavern, a dark, wet, hot cavern. Now they are going to sing, they are singing the Chilean national anthem as well. A parallel universe, 2,000 feet below where we stand, Tim. This is really quite extraordinary, isn't it?
This is the workshop area. Goodness gracious, look at this. And this man who's in clean overalls, a man who has lived a normal life on the surface, now talking to these 33 men who have lived so basically and in so much fear and uncertainty for more than 2 months now.
But who have survived, and this is why we're all here, because of this extraordinary tale of survival and resilience. And to think that the effort it takes to extract these men from the ground, 2,000 feet, that's roughly speaking, let's say 135 stories of a skyscraper, 628 meters. I mean, it's maybe it doesn't sound like a lot, but it is a lot. It's a hell of a lot, especially when you're dealing with solid granite rock, which they've had to drill through in order to get to this. Just savor those scenes.
And I think what is happening now is he is explaining once again to the miners the process of what will happen next. They will have been schooled in this many, many times. Here we have President Piñera and his wife, Cecilia Morel, watching these truly amazing pictures of this man, Manuel González Pávez, the mining expert, an expert in difficult rescues and vertical ascents, just explaining to these men underground what is going to happen next. Probably just telling them a few tips of what it was like in that capsule as well, because they will have heard about what it's like, but he's actually got first-hand experience.
No surprises here in the sense that, you know, you don't see anyone rushing to get into that capsule. They're all very well trained, they've been very disciplined, they know the pecking order, it's all been worked out, who comes first, who comes last, and all the others in between. It really has been a very smooth operation, has it not? There we go. President of Chile greeting his mining minister, who's become a rather popular man in this whole process. And now we wait to see what happens next.
Who would have thought this, that in those first 17 days, when so many people had given up hope apart from the immediate family, that we'd be seeing 69 days after this accident, 33 men, all of them, safe and well, all of them. They haven't lost a single man in this.
And just consider, Tim, I mean, last year in China, which of course has a huge mining industry, 2,500 miners were killed in mining accidents, and those are just the ones that we know about. This country's had a string of mining accidents, most of which tend to end in fatalities. In the United States, we're no stranger to that, of course. So this story of extraordinary survival, of resilience. Remember, these men were trapped down there for 17 days, not knowing whether they would live, whether anyone would discover them, until one day that the first small drill appeared and they pinned that note to it saying, "Estamos bien, todos los 33, we're all well, all 33 of us." And of course, they refer to now these miners in Chile as los 33, the 33.
And will be known around the world forever by that title as well. And they did so, Matt, by being a society. They worked, they lived and they slept together as a society. Each of them had their own tasks during the day, whether it was just testing humidity levels or being in charge of the palomas.
I just saw President Piñera there cross himself, saying a little prayer. But you're right, it's been a very disciplined society down there. I guess you could say that the mining culture, where the foreman is very much in charge and rules this place, you know, probably with an iron rod, that mining culture has served them well, because there's not been a breakdown of discipline. Had there been, this story might not have the kind of ending that we're seeing at the moment.
No, right, and the man who was the shift foreman was Luis Urzúa, and he, we understand, will be the last man out. Now let's just see, I think, having spoken to these
the last
miners,
man out is an act of honor, isn't it? I mean, it's something that...
Yeah, it's something which he will have insisted on, I think, as the captain of the ship, the captain of the group, as it were. But as you say, look, just look at you can see the temperature down there by the men stripped to the waist, or the shirt, or the sweat-soaked shirts that they're wearing underground. 30 degrees Celsius, 85% humidity. I think that's Mario Sepulveda, actually, who just the back to the camera there. And presumably...
I bet you they're all looking forward to a good bath as well, aren't they?
Presumably Florencio Avalos is filming these pictures now, although he's going to be the first one up.
And of course, what they're watching and what you're watching and what we're watching, they're watching down here at Camp Hope as well on a giant screen. There's a real hush in the crowd, actually. I mean, this is just, you know, this is something that they, I guess, can't quite believe that they're seeing. Despite the communication that's been taking place every day and the pictures that we've seen from down there, to finally have this moment of contact between the two separate worlds, separated by 2,000 feet of rock, but potentially by so much more, is something quite heartening, isn't it, really?
And now these men, the 33, have just got to sit it out. They know it can be done. They've seen that first human being for 2.5 months, and now they know that it'll be their turn soon. We were speaking to the mother of Daniel Herrera. He's number 16. She said a little earlier when I was walking around that she thought he'd be up by about 2 o'clock tomorrow afternoon.
Yeah. Yes, and also she told us that, of course, the first thing she wants to do is cook her son a decent meal after she's given him a big embrace. I mean, what have they been eating down there, Tim?
They've been eating a calorie-controlled diet of about 2,200 calories a day. Simple sort of foods, monitored very carefully on the surface. But what they haven't had is what Daniel Herrera is asking his mother to cook for him, which are these sort of pies and pasties, these empanadas filled with meat and seafood. But look at this, just at the surface here, we've got Cecilia Morel, the president's wife, hugging the relatives of the miners on the surface. But I don't know about you, Matt, but I mean, these pictures are truly, truly remarkable. When you think how long they've been there, how normal this is. This man arriving from the surface, and all of them saying, "Oh, hi, yeah, great, thanks, you know, how are you?" Going through the drill. It's almost like he's a sort of stewardess on a plane, or steward on a plane, just saying, right, so when you get in, please, you've got to do your seatbelt up and put your harness on and everything else. And these guys just nod, yeah, like seasoned travelers, and now prepared for their own ascent.
Well, it may seem normal now, but it would have been in their wildest dreams about, 4 weeks ago, 5 weeks ago, that this point would actually emerge one day. I mean, it's been a story full of surprises, has it not? I mean, the first surprise was to find them alive. The second surprise was to be able to communicate with them in this way, and on it goes.
And 3 drilling rigs have tried to make it down there, and it was the middle one, Plan B, which got there first. They broke through on Saturday. Scenes of jubilance here at Camp Hope when they did that. In fact, they've been cheering it on all the way through. When Plan B hit the 300 meters mark, the whole of Camp Hope erupted and raced up the slope here to the main gates, shouting and chanting and praying to the miners and wishing them strength. Just behind us, Matt, there's something going on. Let's just see what we can
just see. Chuck, if you don't mind just panning over there. It's a very large crowd. could just be that journalist fellow you were talking to earlier who always has a large crowd with him, but I don't think it is. I mean, it's obviously not the president because he's up there in that room watching the live video feed. We don't know what that is, but anyway. Bunch of cameras. Someone terribly important in the middle, but we can't tell you who it is, I'm afraid.
But actually, Matt, in the last few days, whenever a relative or somebody has done something, eating or doing their makeup, suddenly the whole of this press pack is descending on it, just eager to catch any reaction. I'm not sure if we can pull in on that. I think it's actually the father, Alfonso Avalos, the man we spoke to a little earlier,
yes.
yeah, who we think is now walking.
Right, because he's going to walk up the slope in order to be, well, he said he wasn't going to see his son.
He's not seeing his first son. There has been some sort of falling out between his son Florencio's wife and the rest of the family. But here now, what is going on? We've got Alfonso racing up with other members of the family to the gates.
Has there been a row, a family row? What's going on?
But being just swamped by these camera crews here, and I think what he might be trying to do is get through to Camp Hope here. And they need to get him over these railings.
He looks upset.
He does look upset, and he's been under huge pressure.
Mind you, I guess he'd be upset too after all this wait, and then he's got literally...
And here he comes now.
Yeah.
And he's coming up.
Right, here he is. Yeah. So this is Alfonso, the father. Very emotional scenes here, kissing his relatives.
This is a man, Matt, who has lived on the main road here at the San Jose mine ever since this disaster happened. Every single day he has sat by the fire talking to journalists, but living every moment of his life in the full glare of publicity. And in the last couple of days, he's cracked.
Under the strain.
He's cracked a few times. He's been in tears for the last couple of days. But I think now he's just come here to get away from this constant attention. And he has looked very upset. His wife looked very troubled when she was down there being followed by everyone.
And just to remind people, he's got two sons down there.
He's got
one
two
is 31, that's the first miner to come up, and another one is 29, but he won't speak, or his relations with the first son have broken down.
Well, his eldest son's wife is adamant that she wants to be there with the two children to greet Florencio, the man who's done the filming. He said to me earlier, though, that he would be there to greet his younger son, Renan, who's 29. But there has been some sort of family rift. It dates back to some illness and the fact that the family, according to the daughter-in-law, weren't there for her husband when she thought they should have been. So everything, every small thing amplified so many times at a period of stress like this.
I hate to say this, Tim, but I think that however unpleasant and grim life down there has been for the miners, in many ways it's been a lot less complicated than it promises to be up here.
And the rescue teams have said that, in fact, life has been more stressful for the families waiting at the top because the society down there was so ordered. They were in better shape and they were better prepared for things, perhaps, than these poor relatives who've been waiting at the top, especially if you've got some sort of family feud or rift just troubling you the whole time, wondering what happens if this doesn't work out. What sort of relationship have I left with my sons?
Let's just go back to these live pool pictures from 2,000 foot under. What you're watching here is the cavern, the refuge cavern, the workshop of that cavern in the mine at San Jose. Of course, where they are is not just this particular chamber, this rocky chamber. You can see, by the way, the capsule there in the distance. There are quite a few tunnels attached to that. I mean, I think altogether a kilometre or so of tunnels where one of the miners has been jogging every day. He's been exercising to stay fit. But it's just such an extraordinary contrast to see them with their shirts off, because remember, it's really hot down there. It's hotter than 30 degrees. and it's damp, and it's probably not particularly pleasant. And up here, it's pretty freezing. Typical desert climate, hot during the day, cold at night. What would be going through their minds as they go up that shaft, Tim, encapsulated in the Phoenix capsule? It would seem like, I mean, it'll be a sort of
a rebirth.
A rebirth. That's what they call it, exactly.
A journey back into a very different world from the one they left back on August the 5th, because these men came in as normal, working, labouring miners for the most part.
Now, are we going to... Now, has he actually got in there? Difficult to see, really. There is someone inside that capsule. Now, is that the man who came down earlier, or is that one of the miners?
Well, the information we've now got is that we are expecting Manuel González Pávez to return to the surface, having spoken to them. That was certainly the latest information we had, because then they were talking about sending a paramedic down, but I'm not sure whether just behind this is that man who came down. I wonder if there's a last-minute change to these plans now. Or maybe they're just trying out the capsule. Maybe that's what he's doing.
Who knows? Who knows? I mean, maybe that's what the excitement was about with the father just now, who we saw. Perhaps he was told something that we don't know about. We're all guessing here a little bit, groping in the dark, I'm afraid. Another Chilean flag emerges. Oh yes, he's sort of having fun now, pretending to be a torero with his flag, with his cape. Well, Tim.
I think it does look as if that rescue specialist is outside the cage at the moment, but whether that's just to show one of the first miners what it's like. Right, no, we've heard in fact that Florencio Avalos is now in that capsule and on his way up.
The first miner to be rescued.
And that was
and
his
how do
father.
we know that? Because the mining minister has tweeted it. Isn't that extraordinary?
Lawrence Goulburn has just tweeted that, and Florencio's father, Alfonso, who wasn't going to be there at the mine, has just raced up the hill, and I wonder if that has anything to do with it, the fact that he now knows that Florencio is coming up.
So basically, so what we can tell you at this stage is the first of the 33 miners to be rescued, trapped underground for longer than any other miner ever in the history of this industry, 69 days, is now inside the Phoenix capsule. That's what it looks like. That's what's been tweeted by the mining minister. Even here, they tweet when it comes to a story like this. And this capsule is about to be winched up to the ground. It'll be something like 15 minutes, perhaps even less than that. I mean, they're saying that it could be as quickly as... That's it. On what's become sort of Main Street in Camp Hope. This is a dirt track, essentially, that is now filled with people. The man inside that capsule, let me tell you a little bit about him, a little bit more. He is 31 years old. He's actually, by profession, a driver. He belongs to one of the mining groups. The miners in that shaft have been split into 3 groups. He belongs to one of those groups, Group 105. And as I said before, he has been filming a video. The extraordinary footage that we've been seeing underground by a camera was given to him. He's been the self-appointed video journalist of this crisis, 2,000 foot under. And he's got a brother there too, Renan Anselmo Avalos. He is there. He is coming up a bit later. I'm not quite sure which number he is to emerge, but he is coming up a little bit later. There's been a bit of family politics, as we've been reporting. The father not apparently on speaking terms with Florencio Avalos, the man who's inside the capsule. But we'll see. I mean, this may all change. I think everyone here is on rather uncharted territory. There we go. That's the scene at the top of that shaft where mining officials have been waiting. What will happen is that once they get out of the capsule, they will be greeted by the president. They will then go into the medical center where they will be immediately assessed by doctors. And it's only after that, apparently, that they get to see their family members, which will be, of course, very, very emotional indeed. There we go. Most of the Chilean cabinet there, clearly elated. And welcome back to this BBC World News special on BBC in the United Kingdom, on the BBC News Channel, on BBC World, around the world. ABC Australia has joined us. BBC America, our viewers in the United States, of course, are with us as well. And you can watch it all live streaming on bbc.com. Just to tell you what's going on. This is the scene at the top of the rescue shaft. And inside that shaft, almost 2,000 feet long, somewhere inside that shaft, is the first miner to be rescued. Florencio Avalos, 31 years old. He is coming up inside the Phoenix capsule. We saw him step into that capsule just a few moments ago. We don't know exactly how long it will take for him to get up. It could be 10 minutes, it could be a little bit longer. But the last time I looked at that wheel, it was turning effortlessly. And of course, the anticipation amongst family members, amongst the politicians, amongst the reporters, of which there are many here, let me tell you, and indeed the country, watching this, glued to their television screens. Federal employees apparently begged the president today to have the day off so they can watch this all on television. People are fascinated by this ordeal, which has now seemingly come to an end, with the wheel turning relentlessly, winching up the capsule to bring the first miner back to the surface, back to freedom, with all the burdens that entails as well. This has been a complicated story, both underground. In technical terms, it'll be a complicated story above ground as these miners return to normality into sometimes complicated family circumstances. And remember, while they've been underground, they've been working together, those 33, as a unit. And with the foreman, the last man to appear, that's been agreed apparently, really kind of running things down there. He's been the boss, he's the man in charge. And they decided that they would send the strongest men up first, in case something goes wrong in the capsule and they have to kind of wrench open the lid, the floor of the capsule, and winch themselves down again into the mine shaft. This hopefully will not happen, and judging from the turning wheel, it is not about to happen. And after the strongest men have been lifted up, it'll be the turn of the weakest men who will come up. There's a 63-year-old miner suffering from a respiratory disease, which is common in this profession. He's not terribly well. He'll be one of those next to come up after the initial group. And then finally it'll be, again, the strong men who can wait perhaps 30 hours or 35 hours, 40 hours. Who knows how long this will take? Who knows if there'll be any hitches on the way? There we can see one of the medics. I think he must be talking to one of the relatives. President in the background. This is really coming to a head very quickly indeed. Steam there coming out of the rescue shaft. Everyone peering into this hole. A hole that signifies freedom for the miners. And that wasn't there until, oops, there we go. That is the little orange wheel that is guiding the cable, the thick cable, into the cavity there to make sure that there are no hitches, it doesn't get caught anywhere. Extraordinary sight, really, isn't it? It's just a hole in the ground, but it signifies so much. Well, let's briefly go to Tim Wilcox, who's down in the crowd, trying to catch the mood there. Tim, over to you.
Matt, Alfonso Avalos, the father of Florencio Avalos, has just walked back to the tent where he's been camped out for this entire ordeal. But just look at this now. In the middle of this media scrum, the whole family encircled by news crews from all around the world, waiting for this moment, which they can see on the big screens over there, when the capsule comes up and the first man in it is Florencio Avalos, his eldest son, 31 years old. The father won't be there to meet Florencio. It'll be Florencio's wife and 2 children who do that. But Alfonso has another son down there as well, Renan, who's 29, and he will see him. The wheel turning, the capsule coming up towards the surface. These pictures now showing the moment that the first of these 33 miners is coming to the surface for 69 days. Sebastián Piñera, the president, waiting there now. And we can see these pictures on the big screen as Florencio's wife and children wait for this moment. Let's just move down to the big screen here and just get some of the reaction here, as it's just a few seconds away for this moment to happen. These pictures, Matt, that you can see as well, watched closely by everyone here, as that capsule, Phoenix 2, is pulled closer to the surface. Sebastián Piñera speaking to the children there, his wife alongside him. What a moment for these children here, about to see their father for the first time in 69 days. Other families around here as well, watching these pictures as well, waiting for their loved ones to come up as well. Everything seems to be going according to plan. The engineers looking absolutely calm at the top, the president smiling, the little girl pointing. The chief engineer alongside them as well, the man who has led this operation, Andres Sugarat, alongside the president. The atmosphere building as we are just seconds away from Phoenix 2. With the Capataz, the deputy foreman, Florencio Avalos, in the capsule. 622 meters up. And now just a few inches away, we think, from the surface. The wheel slowing slightly. The cable running through that grip in the middle. Everyone watching these pictures in Camp Hope and around the world as it makes its way up. Florencio Avalos, chosen because of his physical and mental strength. A man who's helped keep order underground. A man who can help the rescue teams, has been helping the rescue teams for the past few months, telling them what needs to be done, telling them the state of the men below. It must be moments of unbearable waiting for his family members here at the surface. And there his father that you can see alongside him, Alfonso, watching with his wife Maria. The miners peering, the rescue workers peering anxiously over the top of the well. It is just inches away, we think now.
Estamos mirando un pozo otro, te confirmo para la dirección para sacar de Paneca. Detente, otro cambio. Para. Excelente, listo. Vamos a sacar Paneca y te confirmo para el inicio del ascenso.
Florencio, the first of 4 strong miners to come up before the weaker ones follow in a group of about 10 or 12.
Dame lo que yo veo. Ok, atrás, mecanistas, por favor. Por allá, más atrás para que te tiro winche.
Just come down here, we can get a better sight of the screen here and the people watching. Huge sense of anticipation here. People are shouting out, please can you turn the lights off? These TV cameras light. Cheers and shouts here down.
Con la cabeza para allá. No, se lo sacamos ahí.
As the Avalos family celebrates here now. Other families around here waiting for theirs. This is the Gomez family, Mario Gomez's family, the oldest miner. Watching these pictures as well. He is the oldest miner at 63. His wife and daughters and other children is there as well. Cheers for people now, having seen the Avalos family come up, or seen Florencio Avalos come up, that it won't be too long before they see theirs as well. Not sure we can just get through here.
Okay. Well, let's just stay with these pictures here. Let's just stay with these pictures here of the Phoenix capsule preparing to go down for the second time, with one of the rescue workers inside it, bringing up the second miner, Mr. Sepulveda, who's waiting patiently below. That's what we're led to believe from the order that was published earlier today. Those scenes just a few minutes ago, extremely emotional, dramatic, amongst all the other families. They've seen proof now that this operation works, that all the effort that has been expended here yields results. And they are now looking at their clock, looking at that list, looking at the numbers on that list, and trying to work out how long it will take for them to embrace their loved ones as well. But the giant screen has been erected. That's where many of the family members have been camping out. That's where they had a makeshift school for over 2 months. Because the families, of course, didn't live here before this mining disaster. They were either down in Copiapo in the nearby town, or many of them actually lived hundreds of miles from here, and the men came here to earn a crust, to make a living. And not a bad living either. In fact, this mine had paid rather well, in fact, because of the safety record. It was a sort of understanding. You work for this mine, which has its problems, and we will pay you 20% more than the other miners will get working in similar outfits nearby. Well, the second rescue worker is preparing to go down, and the second miner is preparing to come up.
Patricio, tú te aseguras de todo, te aseguras.
Well, let's go back to my colleague Tim Wilcox, who's amongst the crowds there, testing the atmosphere. Tim, are you there?
El minero que emergió desde las entrañas de acá de la mina, hay que decir alrededor de una centena de
And there we see those pictures of the rescue workers just making sure that everything's fine, no hitches inside. We have what I think is supposed to be the first medic to go down. Remember, all these miners, before they come up, in theory, should get a preliminary test. And we're not quite sure why the first miner was brought up so swiftly. Anyway, things change the whole time, but here we go. Phoenix is lowered once again into the hole. A perfect fit. And down it goes. Into the shaft. The sirens are sounding. This is now getting ready for the second rescue.
Otto, levántalo. Otto, levántalo. Déjalo que la vea, Otto. Sale de ahí. Sale. Un paso por acá. Ahí queda para afuera. Eso sí, no debe empujar, no importa.
Well, welcome back to this BBC News special on BBC World around the world, on BBC News Channel in the United Kingdom, BBC One, BBC America in the United States, and ABC Australia as well. We're watching live pictures of the Phoenix capsule being lowered into the ground, into the rescue shaft that was drilled a few days ago, to retrieve the second miner of this extraordinary rescue operation. The first miner has already come to the surface wearing sunglasses, even though it's the middle of the night. They've issued all the miners there with sunglasses to shield their eyes from the bright lights, the television lights, the Klieg lights. And my colleague Tim Wilcox is down with the crowds, testing the atmosphere.
Matt, thanks. I'm with Wilson Avalos, the brother of Alfonso Avalos, who's just seen Florence come to the surface. ¿Cómo fue el momento cuando subo?
Muy emocionante, pero él nos transmitió una fuerza enorme. Lo vimos muy entero y es una persona fenomenal. No lo sé cómo describirlo, porque se vio muy entero y eso los va a dar mucha fuerza para seguir luchando.
He's saying it was the most emotional moment. The whole press pack descended on this family as it came up, but he said it looked, parecía normal, como si no estuviera pasado casi 2 meses y medio debajo de la tierra, ¿no?
Sí, ha sido muy complicado, pero esto hay que mantenerlo con mucha calma. Le doy gracias a Dios que los ha dado la oportunidad y la fuerza.
It didn't look as if he'd spent so long underground, but the strength had kept them going. Pero, ¿cómo parecía? ¿Normal? ¿Tranquilo?
Se ve muy normal, muy tranquilo y por eso le reitero, eso da mucha fuerza. Él nos dio mucha fuerza para acá, para estar en pie.
Okay, ¿y ahora cuándo va a salir Renan?
Que el número 25, Renan.
Muy bien.
El número 25 hay que esperarlo.
¿Y la esposa de Florencio y los hijos cómo se llaman? I'm just asking about the wife and the children of Florencio, the first one up.
Sí, la esposa se llama Mónica Araya, los hijos se llaman Byron Ávalo y Alex Ávalo.
Se puso muy emocionante la hija, ¿no? Cuando veía.
El hijo más chico se puso muy emocionante, se veía muy tranquilo. Pero no, él no pensaba como chico, no pensaba lo que estaba pasando. Pero ahora lo vio y se emocionó y nada, pues decirle que nosotros de acá estamos luchando por eso y darle mucha fuerza, que sigan luchando y no los vamos a dejar nunca.
Yeah, and the children, he said, were very emotional about this, but the actual man himself, Florencio, looked absolutely calm. And ¿cuánto tiempo llevas aquí? Because Wilson has been here with Alfonso many times. ¿Cuánto tiempo llevas aquí?
69 días llevo acá.
69 days, he and Alfonso have been waiting here for this moment. And ahora, Wilson y Alfonso va a estar con Renan cuando sube, ¿no?
Sí, esperar a Renan y esperar a los...
¿Y tú también o no?
Sí, no, obvio, yo me voy a ir cuando salga el último rescatista. Ahí me voy a ir porque hemos compartido de un principio todos los familiares, no podemos dejarlos de lado ahora, cuando salga Renan y irlos, no, vamos a quedar todos.
Muchísimas gracias. Okay, he's just saying that he has been waiting here because the family has been together, waiting for this moment, waiting for all the men to come up. Let's just move away from this scrum because the tent they were staying in has been completely wrecked.
El primer minero ya está con nosotros. Florencio Ábalos, el primer minero, ya está con nosotros.
We have seen
Lo vimos todos,
him
abrazar a su
embracing
mujer
his wife
Mónica,
Monica and his
a su
son
hijo Byron,
with
con un
love,
amor, con una ternura,
with such a
con un
love that we
cariño
were
que realmente emocionó a
we were
todos y cada
really
uno
moved.
de los chilenos.
But still we've got a
Pero
long day
todavía
ahead.
nos queda una larga jornada. En este
In
instante la
this
cápsula
moment, the capsule is
va bajando
descending
nuevamente a las
down
profundidades
the mountain
de esta
in order
montaña
to bring up the second
para traer al
miner,
segundo minero,
Mario Sepúlveda.
Sepúlveda.
And it
Y
will
así
continue
seguirá,
like that,
sin
with
descanso,
no rest, like
como han
these
sido estos
69 days.
69 días,
Because today, 13th of
Porque hoy día,
October of
13
2010,
de octubre del año 2010. El 13 del 10
is
del 10.
the magic
Nuevamente,
number.
el número mágico de
The
33.
first miner has
El
been
primer
rescued
minero ha sido
in a manner
rescatado
that makes us all
de
very
una
proud.
forma que realmente enorgullece
After
a
him,
todos
he'll
los
come Mario Sepúlveda.
Después vendrá
And after
Mario
him,
Sepúlveda. Y después vendrán
each and every
todos y
one
cada
from
uno
the
de los
33 miners.
Yo quiero en esta noche de tantas
I
emociones,
want to give thanks to
en primer
God
lugar agradecerle
in
a
the
Dios,
first instance,
porque sin
because
la ayuda
without
de
his
Dios,
help this
esto
wouldn't
no
have
habría
been
sido
possible. And
Y
also
agradecerle
to the
también
rescued
a los
team
rescatistas,
and
al
the
ministro
minister
Loren Goldborn, que está con nosotros
Goldborn.
esta noche,
and also I
al
want to say
ministro Jaime
thanks
Mañalich, que desde el primer día
to the mining
se
minister,
comprometieron
but
en
also
cuerpo
to
y
all
alma
the
con este rescate.
team.
Pero a todos los rescatistas,
Without
a
them,
esos cientos, miles de personas
it
que
wouldn't
han
have
hecho
been
su aporte
possible, this miracle,
para que esta noche sea una noche maravillosa que
a night
los
that
chilenos
the world
y el mundo
in his
entero nunca
entirety
va a
won't
olvidar.
forget in a hurry.
Y ojalá,
And I hope that this example
ojalá el
will
ejemplo de los
remain
mineros
with us
se quede
forever,
para siempre con nosotros.
because the miners have shown,
Los mineros han demostrado,
like the
igual como
victims
lo
of the
demostraron
earthquake
las
and
víctimas
everyone
del
who
terremoto
has
y los que están trabajando en la reconstrucción de lo que el
contributed
terremoto destruyó,
to rebuild
que cuando Chile se
Chile,
une,
that the
y lo hacemos
adversity
siempre en la
brings
adversidad,
strength to people.
somos capaces de grandes cosas. Y el
Our
temple
soul
de nuestro pueblo, el
shows the
alma de nuestro
best
país,
of
muestra lo
the
mejor de sí misma cuando estamos
Chilean
viviendo
nation.
tiempos adversos.
I want to invite
Yo
all
quiero
the
invitar a todos los
Chilean
chilenos
people to
a que
have
no
this
solamente
unity,
en
but
tiempos
not
de
only in
adversidad
adversity,
tengamos esta unidad,
but
y
in
este
every
compromiso,
occasion.
sino que lo proyectemos
We
hacia
have
adelante.
many challenges
Como país tenemos
and many
tantos
objectives
desafíos,
to get,
tenemos tantas metas por lograr,
but I'm
tantos
sure
problemas por enfrentar,
that we
que
will
estoy seguro que vamos
that
a
we
saber
will all
hacerlo
together
igual como hemos
succeed
hecho este
like,
rescate. Yo quiero recordar,
in the same way that
los
we've done
primeros
with
días,
this rescue.
cuando no sabíamos si estaban vivos, no sabíamos si estaban muertos, no sabíamos dónde estaban.
Some people lost their faith,
Hubo algunos que
but
quizás
some of
perdieron
them
la fe,
never lost it.
pero hubo
And
otros
this
que
is
nunca la
why
perdieron.
Chile
Y por eso creo que
has
Chile ha
fulfilled
cumplido
the
con-
Chilean dream,
porque los chilenos
because we
nos
haven't cracked,
a no
we
dejarnos
haven't
luchar, a no
fulfilled
y hemos cumplido.
every
Nos
promise.
comprometimos a buscarlos hasta
We promised
encontrarlos.
to find them, and we have.
Y ahora
And this is the last part of our promise, to rescue them,
rescatarlos
to bring them out safe and sound.
sanos y salvos. El abrazo,
The embrace between Florencio and his wife Monica and his son,
el abrazo entre Florencio, Mónica y su
will remain in the heart of the Chilean people forever, because it spoke more than 1,000 words about the love and emotion that embraces every Chilean. And this emotion will continue throughout today and tomorrow. So please continue showing what we are able to do. So tonight, a night full with emotions, I want to send a hello to everyone and tell them that you can be proud to be a Chilean, because we will build from this, and I thank you for your help. Thank you for transmitting your strength and your hope. What message do you send to the people of Atacama, the region of Atacama? Mónica, Florencio's wife, was supposed to be there by Florencio's side, but his son also wanted to be there, and he also asked to be near. I've told Florencio that I've never seen so much love for a father like his son has shown us. Also, I saw how Mónica demonstrated his love for him. Hence, you can only miss what you've lost. So Florencio, Mónica and Byron are going to start a new life. The same with the rest of the miners, and I wish them all well.
Presidente, este día 26 de octubre se celebra
the 26th of October.
Presidente.
This rescue effort has been so wonderful, so clean, and so enduring that there was no reason for all the nations of the world to watch it and witness. Therefore, you have all witnessed what all the Chilean people has also seen. In this rescue mission, the Chilean people have shown the best of themselves and what they are capable of, and we have to show it to the rest of the world. Atacama has been always a land where everything has been very difficult, and the miners know this better than anybody else.
Arrancan los frutos de la tierra con un esfuerzo, con una
It's always
tenacidad.
been the same and probably will remain the same.
Y va a seguir
That's why I want
siendo.
to
Por
tell
eso yo
to
le quiero
the
decir a los atacameños, fuerza
miners,
Atacama.
strength to Atacama.
Porque los atacameños han sido heroicos.
They've
Lo
always
fueron en la
been
guerra del Pacífico,
a very
lo fueron a lo largo de
powerful
nuestra
and
historia,
strong
lo han sido hoy
region.
día con este
So I wish
rescate
Atacama the
maravilloso en la
best.
región
I
de
wish the
Atacama.
region of Atacama the best. Florencio has expressed
Florencio me expresó
his gratefulness
la gratitud que sentía él
and that of
y
his
también
colleagues
la de
and
todos
friends,
sus compañeros que habían estado atrapados durante
the
69
gratitude with
días. La
Chile
gratitud
and
con
with
Chile.
his
La
fellow
gratitud con los
countrymen,
chilenos.
because they felt that they weren't
Sintieron desde el
alone.
primer momento que no
They
estaban
listened to our
solos.
words and to our
Escucharon nuestras
promise to
palabras.
do what was in
Nuestro
our hands
compromiso
to
de hacer todo lo que
to bring
fuera
them alive.
humanamente posible. Y él estaba
He was
emocionado
very
y
grateful to
agradecido con
his
Chile, con su
country,
país. Y eso me lo expresó
and he has expressed this
palabras,
feeling with
con
a
lágrimas en los ojos
strong
y con un
embrace
abrazo
and
muy
with
apretado.
tears in his eyes.
Hemos
We've
aprendido
learned
el
to
valor
appreciate faith
de la
and
fe y
hope,
la esperanza.
and this
La
is the
esperanza
dream
es el
of the
sueño de los
wakened
hombres despiertos.
men.
Hemos aprendido el valor de la fe.
We believe in
La fe en
God,
Dios, la fe en
and
nuestro
we believe
país,
in
la
ourselves.
fe en nosotros mismos.
We have learned
Hemos
the
aprendido el
meaning
valor del
of
compañerismo y del
common
liderazgo
friendship.
que nos
We
mostraron
have
los mineros desde el primer
learned
día. Hemos aprendido la solidaridad de los rescatistas. Y
we
de
have
todos
learned the
los que han
feelings
participado y contribuido a esta
and the
maravillosa
faith of the
operación de
people
rescate que no tiene
who's
parangón en la
been
historia de la
part of the
humanidad.
rescue.
Creo que nunca
never has been attempted a rescue like this before, so we are privileged to have taken part in this operation, and we must not forget the value of the Chilean population, because we know that it doesn't matter how hard we are hit, we'll always get up and stand again. This mine has had a long history of accidents. Hence, this mine won't reopen again unless it can guarantee the integrity and security and life of the people who work here. And the same is going to happen with the other mines in our country, and not only in this sector. We are reviewing legislation with regards to security of our workers. And not only security, but the dignity of our workers in every sector, fishing, transport. We are going to change the way we are doing things, because if we want to be a developed country, we have to respect our working force, because our working force deserves it. The legislation will guarantee this. This site named Hope, which is a very good name because it reflects the hope of Chile. As a nation, we are going to build up a memorial for all the Chileans to remember and to be guided in the future. Thank you, Mr. President.
Muchas gracias, Presidente.
Only add
Solo
my gratitude to the
mi
hundreds of people who
agradecimiento a
have
las
worked
cientos de
very hard
personas
through
que han trabajado en
these
estos
69
69
days,
días para llegar a la etapa
from
que
those
estamos
who
viviendo.
provided us with
Desde aquellos que nos proveyeron la
food,
alimentación, el aseo,
hygiene,
el cuidado,
police,
las fuerzas policiales,
the army,
investigaciones, ejército,
the Royal
la
Force,
Armada,
everyone who
Fuerza
was
Aérea.
here,
Cada uno de los trabajadores que estuvo
and
aquí.
those from many
Hay gente de tantas
companies
empresas
who
que
I
no voy a
can't
mencionar por
mention due
la
to the
longitud de la
length of
lista.
the list.
Cada
They
uno de
deserve
ellos
the gratitude of the
recibe el
country.
agradecimiento de todo el país, en particular y en representación de ellos, quizás lo que
For
representaban
example,
las
Andrés
distintas
Ugarre,
tareas
René,
en el ámbito de salud,
Health Department,
la
Christian Barra,
intendenta Jimena Mata,
from the Home Office.
Well, there you have it, a press conference currently being given by Lawrence Goulburn. He's the mining minister of Chile. He's become a star on this story, a political star, standing next to his boss, the president of the country, Sebastián Piñera. They are extremely pleased because this operation that started really quite precariously, that has been grinding on for 69 days now altogether, and 17 of those days at the beginning, we didn't even know whether these miners were alive or not, and the miners didn't know whether anyone was still looking for them. That has now come to fruition, and I'm going to say goodbye for now, but I will leave you in the capable hands of my colleague Tim Wilcox, and I will leave you also with the extraordinary images of the first rescue of Operation San Lorenzo just half an hour ago or so, just before midnight local time.